Hashem Naseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah. Good to be in Miami, Baruch Hashem. Sorry again that I'm late, third time. It's a charm. Like I said, my Yetzer Hara is very strong against this shiur apparently. I tried to give it already 3 times and it's not working. Each time we get into other topics and it extends and we never get to it. I'm hoping that Bezat Hashem, some of the information that I brought will go over Bezat Hashem. It's a shiur I promised you guys a long time ago. But it has to connect obviously to our Mishnah. And the beautiful part about the Torah is that everything connects. Doesn't matter what you're talking about, everything connects, always connects. So the shiur Bezat Hashem today, this is, I believe, the 9th or 10th installment of the same Mishnah. The chapter 6, Mishnah number 6, which is about the 48 kinyanim, 48 things that a person needs to acquire in order to get the crown of Torah. There's a lot of things that people try to acquire in life. A new car every couple of years, a new house as often as possible, new stocks every day, different types of currencies. Now there is this craze over the last year or two, maybe longer, about different monetary exchange type of processing systems, like payment systems, where if you want to send somebody money, you literally have like a million different ways to do it. In the old days, it would be, okay, you give the guy a credit card, a check, bank wire if it's a lot of money, because not only is a bank wire a lot more expensive, but it's also very annoying and long process. That's pretty much it. Today, you have a million different ways. You have the PayPal and the other payment systems. So it's funny because sometimes people want to donate. They have a Yetzer Tov show up and they want to donate to help us do Kiruv. And say, okay, go donate on the website. It's like, oh yeah, but it uses PayPal. I said, okay, but it has other options. Oh, it uses the other one. That's not good either. Do you have something else? I said, what is something else? And every other day I hear somebody tell me, oh, can you use Zillow? Okay, so Zillow. So we open a Zillow account. You have Venmo, so we have a Venmo account. And then some other somebody else told me the other day about something called Cash or something, Cash for something, some other application. And the point is that there is literally, like, every day there's a new way to pay people, new way to buy things, new way to consume more. And on one end, it's a very convenient that you have multiple ways to do things. Another way, it also shows us where this generation's mind is, where our mind is. Our mind is constantly on acquiring new things. And the most important thing that a person needs to acquire in his life is the Keter Torah. Unfortunately, most people don't even know what Keter Torah is. So the shiur will be for Ilui Nishmat Samuel Farkas, the young boy from Miami that passed just last week. Also our friend Brian Hamilton and David ben Masouda, and also for Refuah Shlema for Avi Mori, David ben Nasriya, my dear mom Doris Bajora, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Elisheva Chaya bat Sarah, Dvora bat Mercedes, Michael ben Yoel ben Sarah Lea, and Yocheved, no, she's Baruch Hashem healthy. Shtabach Shemo. She's off the list. Bezat Hashem, all of Am Yisrael will have refuah shlema, refuat ha-nefesh, refuat ha-guf. The most dangerous type of illness that a person can have in this world, most dangerous one that's mamash, something that is as catastrophic, much, much worse than AIDS, much worse than cancer, much worse than all types of other horrible, terrifying diseases like multiple sclerosis and things of that nature that mamash, you just suffer day and night. Worst type of disease is when the neshama is so deep in his slumber, so deep in a sleep, that he doesn't know he's sick, that he doesn't know that he's living his whole life for absolutely no purpose whatsoever. She's living her whole life for no reason. She lived to eventually die. And in between point A and point B, however long that's going to be, they're going to acquire some things. They're going to buy a house, and maybe a second house, and maybe some investment property, and a few cars are going to change every few years, and a few phones, and a few this, and a few that, and maybe have a few kids, and a couple of pets. Share a few stories, a couple of drinks, and a laugh, and then die. And if you ask these people at the end of their life, can you really tell me the most critical things that happen in your life without all of the making it into a story in a readable format? Bullets of your life. Like what happened? What happened in your life? Tell me. Your average 75 or 80-year-old would not be able to fill a half a page. A half a page, if you really thought about it. Oh, at 5, when my memory begins, this guy David punched me in the face. At 8, I got left back. Am I really going to write this stuff? Erase it. At 13, I had a bar mitzvah, and I did pretty good on reading from the Torah, but I still don't have no idea what I said till this day. Like the disaster of an example of what a Jew is, unfortunately. Howard Stern and his friend Adam Sandler were on the show recording, and they both recited the blessings you see when they go up to the Torah, and they started reciting different verses from the Torah. Mamash, perfect, like they both just had from the bar mitzvah. They both remembered it. Both of them obviously don't keep anything. I think one of them is actually an atheist, if not both of them. But they recited it perfectly, and then they finalized it with what? I still don't have an idea what it means. Meaning 40, 50 years have passed, they still have no idea what they said 40 years ago at the bar mitzvah. But they know it by heart. They recite it by heart. They ingrained it into their mind to remember the prayer by heart, to remember the parasha for their birthday by heart. What it means, different story. Meaning that you did the whole thing, but for no reason. You did it just to show off to people that you remember some stuff by heart. It's one of the saddest things that you see today in the world, that you see a lot of people go through the motion. They may even go to Jewish school. They may even go to a nice yeshiva. But they graduate and they become atheists. They graduate and they become secular. They pretend like they're orthodox, but in reality they're worse than the person that's an atheist in their behavior. You see a lot of people just go through the motion without really knowing the reason why. And they have no qualms about violating the law. No fear whatsoever about cursing Hashem, questioning Hashem, making fun of the sages, making fun of the Torah. Nothing. There's no thing. I had one of these young boys told me that his so-called Orthodox father decided that in the middle of Shabbat, just not too long ago, in the middle of Shabbat, they had dinner or lunch. People are there. He decides to give everybody a chidush. He wants to give everyone a chidush. Now everyone, it's the Shomer Shabbat. Nice kippah, nice kisui rosh, everything's good. The looks, shtabach shemo. The food, I think if they came from Egypt to eat there, they would be able to eat it, shtabach shemo. We have the food, we have the kippah, we have everything. But the father wants to give a chidush. What is the father's chidush? You know, I don't think there's any problem with driving on Shabbat. I don't see the problem. I don't see the problem with driving on Shabbat. That's the chidush he decided to give on Shabbat. I don't think there's a problem. Just the education he's giving his kids, the guests and everybody else. The poor kid, what is he going to say? He's teenager, doesn't know what to do. And he asks me, am I allowed to say amen to his blessings now? Because he's such a kofel. I'm sorry that my father is such a kofel, but am I allowed to say amen to his blessings? The answer is actually yes. And the reason why is because he's not yet a kofel. He's just stupid. He's ignorant. And the reason why, Rabotai Yekarim, why we have so many ignorant people that say ignorant statements like that, even if they look religious, is because we do not have any concept of onish, any concept of punishment, any concept of consequences. We have a concept of consequences that happen in this world. If you rob the store and they catch you, you're probably going to have to do some time. If you steal from clients and they catch you, you're probably going to lose your license and maybe do some time. If you rob from the government, you're definitely doing some time and they're probably going to beat you up in jail. If you do this, this, and this, something's going to happen. We all have a concept of it. We may not believe it's going to happen to us. People do a lot of stupid things because they simply don't believe that it's going to happen to them. They speed on the highway 150 miles an hour because they say, no, accidents are for other people that don't know how to drive. The accidents happen to people that don't know how to drive. The reality is it's quite the opposite. Accidents happen to people who do know how to drive. Really, really well. One of the best drivers in the world, I believe his name was Earnhardt or something like that, some years ago, maybe 20 years ago or so. Crashed in the middle of a race and died on the spot. Live television. Before he died, they said he's the best driver in the world. After he died, they said he's dead. Why? It didn't make a difference what he was. He's dead. We have a concept that certain things can happen, but even when we know that it can happen, we never think it can happen to us. This is why people are promiscuous, with no concept in their mind that things can happen from that. Not even talking about Genom and punishment and all of that stuff. I'm talking about just things that even the average atheist believes are real, like disease. No qualm, no thought, no nothing. People have no idea. No, that stuff happens to other people. It's not going to happen to me. And we do many, many things because even when we know that there is a consequence, the disease that unfortunately almost all of mankind has, almost all, is that we are so far from this amazing crown of Torah, we're so far from this holy Torah, that our neshama is suffering a sickness of slumber, of lethargy, of just simply cluelessness, not only in our avodat Hashem, in our servitude of Hashem, but also of simply how to live as a human being. The slumber is not only affecting us in our relationship with Hashem Yitbarach, it's also affecting us in how to be decent human beings, how to think before we do. We just don't know what we're doing. You see some of the most brilliant people in the world making the stupidest mistakes. I don't know the details of the story, but the little bit of details that I have already want me to vomit about this guy. The Amazon CEO cheats on his wife, and I think he got caught because of text messages. You have $100 billion, and the woman that helped you get there, you cheat on her? And then he says, no, it's all because somebody stole my text messages. He's blaming the text messages. Oh, it's not because you're a moron and an ungrateful person to the woman that stood by you when you were nothing? It's not because of that. It's because of the text message. It's iPhone's fault. It's Google's fault. Maybe it's the girl's fault. No, it's not your fault. Nobody's fault. It's everybody else except you. We simply are so clueless because we never just sit down and think. What could happen if this goes wrong? What could happen if I'm wrong? I can tell you myself, when I was in the business world, being wrong wasn't an option. It happened many times, but it simply wasn't part of the calculation because it always had to work out at some point. Okay, so when you made a mistake, you fix it. You don't really think about, oh, maybe I could have avoided this mistake. Litbonen, to think, to delve, is one of the prerequisites that a person has to have in order to acquire this Keter Torah, this crown of Torah, which we went over. But one of the things that it's going to lead us, that if we think about everything that we do now, and from now on you start thinking about things, before you move forward and you spit out that word that you may regret, you yell that yell that you may not need to, you take that action that may be unnecessary, you go to sleep when you can push another 15 minutes. You press the gas pedal when in reality, you can wait. You do all the next time, before you do all of that, if you start thinking about it, say, you know what? Let me think about it. I'll get back to you tomorrow. No, but it's a decision now. For you, it's a decision now. My decision is, I'll call you tomorrow. My decision is, let me get back to you. Let me think about it. Yeah, but you just said you thought about it. Yeah, I need another day. I need to sleep on it. One of the greatest advices you could ever listen to is that. If you have a decision to make, and someone's pushing you to make that decision, don't make it. Some Christian missionary came to some ignorant Jew, didn't really know much, poor guy, didn't go to the best yeshiva or anything, didn't have any major rabbis in his life, but he knew a little bit about the Masoret, he knew a little bit about the heritage. So when this Christian missionary shows up to him and goes, hey, listen, I got a church, we have a policy, any Jew that comes in gets $100,000. Oh, it's a good deal. What do? I got to fix the lights, I got to clean for you guys, what do you want me to do? He goes, no, you got to do just one thing. One thing you got to do. What? You got to go in there and you say you believe in JCPenney. You believe in Jesus. You, a Jew, you were born a Jew, but you tell everybody, you make a video of you. I believe in Jesus from now on. I saw him, I dreamt about him, all types of nonsense that people say. Tell them you were Orthodox Jew and you come from a religious family, and make the story, because for every Jew that we get to destroy his heritage and his forefathers' blood, sweat, and tears, for every Jew that we get on camera to do it, it's worth more than 1 million goyim. That's why if you see all of these missionaries on their websites and on their marketing material, they predominantly focus on the Jew that adopted their faith, not the goy. They don't look for, this guy from Zimbabwe, he adopted Jesus. This guy from Congo, he adopted Jesus. This guy from Saudi Arabia adopted. No, they don't care about those people. They don't care. Jose from Mexico adopted Jesus. They don't care about those people. Okay, here's Mikey from Italy. He adopted Jesus. Nobody cares about Mikey or Jose or Mustafa. Nobody cares. What do they care about? David from Tel Aviv. Joshua from New York, Borough Park. That's what they care about. Why? Because they know the Jew gives you authenticity. And Hashem Yerachem Aleinu, unfortunately, how many of them are falling? But this poor Jew said, no, as much as I would love to have this $100,000, I can't do it. He says, you have a house? He says, no. He goes, where do you live? He goes, I rent a little house with a few shekels that I get every month. I rent a house. He goes, so $100,000 you could buy a house. He goes, yeah, I know I could buy a house, but not interested. Because you have a car? He goes, no. Because you know with $100,000 you could buy a car. He goes, yeah, I know, but I'll just walk. I'll use the bus. He says, you have a watch even? He goes, no. Because you know what a watch, you're going to know where to go, when to go. Maybe you're going to get a better job because now you're going to be on time. He goes, you're right. He goes, so you're going to do it? He goes, no. Why? He says, because I don't know much, but I remember my father, he told me something. He said, my son, if somebody ever comes to you and says he wants to buy your horse, if it's a good price, take it. But if he says, I want to trade, I want to give you a horse, and I want to pay for it. I'm going to give you a horse, and I'm going to pay for it. Then, don't trade. Don't do the trade. Because if he's willing to pay for what he has, there's something wrong with it. If he's willing to pay for what he has, there's something wrong for it. Something that's valuable, you don't pay. You get paid. You don't pay, you get paid. If he's willing to give you cash to adopt his religion, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. Rabotai Karim, if we only listened to these simple stories and just thought about them at a moment of weakness, how much trouble it could save us and our children. But these are the things that we need to do and need to know them at all times, and the only way is if we fight tooth and nail in order to acquire this crown of Torah. Now, our Mishnah in Avot says the following: גדולה התורה יותר מן הכהונה ומן המלכות, שהמלכות נקנית ב-30 מעלות והכהונה נקנה ב-24 והתורה נקנה ב-48 דברים, ואלו הן: בתלמוד, בשמיעת האוזן, בעריכת שפתיים, בבינת הלב, בסכלות הלב, באימה, ביראה, בענווה, בשמחה, בטהרה, בשימוש חכמים, בדקדוק חברים, בפלפול התלמידים, ביישוב, במקרא, במשנה, במיעוט סחורה, במיעוט דרך ארץ, במיעוט תענוג, במיעוט שינה, במיעוט שיחה, במיעוט צחוק, בערך אפיים, בלב טוב, באמונת חכמים, בקבלת ייסורים, המכיר את מקומו והשמח בחלקו, ועושה סייג לדבריו, ואינו מחזיק טובה לעצמו. ואהוב. Up to here is where Bezat Hashem will try to complete, at least. We've done most of it so far. And we're so far up to about 25 out of the 48. The Torah is even greater than priesthood and royalty, as we've learned many times already. Priesthood and royalty are two things that you could only have if your father is one. For royalty is acquired along with 30 prerogatives, priesthood with 24 gifts. But the Torah is acquired by means of 48 qualities. Unlike the priesthood and the royalty that come with something, where the actual gifts that you have are simply given to you, are simply things you need to do without necessarily exerting yourself. The Torah crown is only acquired through toil. And what are these things that you have to do? And not only once, and not only twice, and not only 10 times, but rather every single day of your life, as long as there's breath in your lung. It begins with studying. If you show up to Shurei Torah on a regular basis, you have a shot. Why? Because that means that you're putting the Torah as a significant priority in your life. But if the only way that you're going to go to a Shiur Torah is if it meets your specific requirements, it's at a specific time, a specific place, and it has to be close to the house, no more than 5 miles, and it has to be a specific time right between the game, and you're not going to lose anything because of it, you're not going to miss anything because of it. If you have these types of conditions for Torah, let me break it to you, you're never going to acquire Torah. You may not acquire anything in your life because of it. Why? Because you're treating the Torah like it's a hobby. attentive listening. If you're already going to come to a shiur Torah, make sure you do everything you can to listen. I continuously remind you guys that whether you're online or you're in front of me, to take notes. To take notes of the lectures. If not right now, then later. If not later, then right now. If not either one, then do both. Why? Because when you write something down, it's like you heard it 7 times. And then you're going to remember it. You may not remember it exactly as I said it, but you remember a certain version of it where if somebody little decides to ask you a question, you actually have an answer. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next week, it may not even be next year. But one day someone's going to ask you a question about this shiur tonight. And if you don't have an answer, they're going to ask you that question. Why don't you have an answer? You went to a shiur. You went to a shiur a few days before Tu B'Shvat. You got the answer. How come you don't remember? Oh, Hashem, I forgot. What do you mean you forgot? I gave you a brain. The brain was supposed to think just enough that you're going to forget. So what do? You put a fence around the fence. You prepare for forgetness. What? You write stuff down. Articulate speech, intuitive understanding, discernment, awe, reverence. These are all different things that we've gone over where you have to speak clearly. You have to make sure that you look into things until you understand them, or at least understand the concept. When you learn Gemara, you're not going to understand every single thing ever, even if you learn it 100 times. But you have to understand something. Get something out of it. The key is always to understand the basic pshat, which is the basic meaning of what is being said here. You may not understand every detail or why every detail is the way it is, but nonetheless you need to know who's talking, why are they saying, what are they trying to arrive to, and not just skim through the book just to tell people you finished it. Discernment, as we talked about, is that if you have to take time each day and think about what's going on. Think about the things that are going on in your life. Some people like to call it itbodedut, because they use it as a time where they talk to Hashem and they ask Him for stuff. In reality, itbodedut is not necessarily supposed to be just for you to ask Hashem for stuff. It's supposed to be a time where you actually meditate on what's going on in your life. What's going on in your avodat Hashem. What can you do to become better? What does Hashem want from you? Now we all know the basic answer, to do better. How? The thinking, the discernment means you're thinking about how can I do better tomorrow? Not next year. Oh, everybody makes a lot of promises. Yeah, this year I'm going to make a resolution. This year I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And 99% of people don't do even the X. Forget about the Y and the Z. Don't make any resolutions for the next year. Make a resolution for today. What can you do today? And tomorrow do the same thing. What can I do tomorrow? Every day you should work on today. Why? Because who promised you next week? Awe and reverence. If you're not scared of Hashem, then I'm sorry to tell you, you have a different God. Because the God of Israel is very, very scary. We'll talk a little bit more about it because there's many people that say He's not. Many people say that, no, everybody goes to Gan Eden, everybody's in good shape. Because you're a Jew, that already gives you a get-out-of-jail-free card. Unfortunately, some of these people call themselves Hasidim. And the last thing that they should describe themselves is as Hasidim. Because this is actually against Hasidut, just like it is against the Torah itself. Humility, joy, purity. People think that if you speak out and you say things from a Torah and you exert confidence in what you're saying, it makes you arrogant. It's quite the contrary. If you're stating it from Torah, there's nothing to be arrogant about. All you're doing is you're confirming you know how to read. That's it. If you're stating something from a Torah, a Mechalel Shabbat has no share of the world to come. Someone that lends money to another Jew and charges him interest has no share of the world to come. Someone that wastes seed on purpose without doing tshuva has no share of the world to come. You say certain things like this that a lot of other people don't like to say. The only thing you're confirming is not even your knowledge. All it confirms is that you know how to read what Hashem said, what His sages said. That's all it confirms. So when other people say, "Oh, you sound arrogant," who died and made you Moshe Rabbeinu? Who died and made you think like Hashem? What? So everything that you're saying, it happens to be what Hashem is saying. That's what some people they write this, they say this. Yes, it happens to be. Why? Because it's not what I said. I'm just repeating it. I'm just taking the book. I read it. You want the book? I'll tell you where. You open the book, you're going to read it for yourself. Maybe there's going to be 2 people in the world that can actually read. Next thing you know, we're going to have a big scam. 10 people, minyan, of people that know how to read. Ishtabach Shemo. Next thing you know, 20 people. Wow! It's like a marketing scheme. People know how to read. That's all it confirms. You know how to read. It doesn't confirm knowledge, righteousness. Confirms you know how to read. And you follow what you know how to read. Because you know the source is Hashem. That's it. To tell people the truth does not require much more than simply being afraid to not tell the truth. They asked the Rav Wasserman, Alav Shalom, Kvod Rav, were you always blessed with such fantastic memory that you literally remember everything you've ever read? You remember the entire Torah by heart? 304,805 letters by heart. Your entire Shas by heart. Almost 2,700 dapim, which is over 5,000 pages of tiny, tiny little microscopic letters. The small print. It's not 5,000 pages of the big print like your Siddur, that each letter takes a page. No, the Gemara is tiny little microscopic letters. You remember every one of them by heart? The Zohar, the Midrash, the Shulchan Aruch, all these things you remember by heart. Were you always blessed with such great memory? Rav Wasserman, Alav Shalom, says, in fact, you're so off, he says to them, you're so off, you're so wrong, I have to explain it to you. You see, I actually don't even have a good memory, he says. Even a good memory, sometimes I forget the birthday of something. I forget name, forget a lot of things. I don't even have a good memory. So now everybody's confused. He remembers the whole Torah, but he has a bad memory. He says, but, you see, the Torah is from Hashem. And I'm scared to death to forget what he said to me. It's not good memory. It's I'm scared to forget. Because he said I have to remember. He said I have to do stuff. I'm going to forget what he said. It's not like my friend told me, hey, do me a favor, pick me up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I forgot. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, my friend. It's 5:15, I'm a little late. No, it's Hashem. It's Hashem. You can't afford to forget what Hashem said. I'm afraid to forget. And that's why I remember. If you're afraid to forget, you're going to remember the entire Torah. If you're not afraid, you may not even remember your own address. But at the same token, this fear is not a fear that's supposed to make you self-conscious, miserable, sad, depressed. It's the opposite. This fear of Hashem is supposed to create joy and purity in your life. Where every moment in your life you have this joy that you have a purpose. You're not just another dog that's waiting to die. You're not just another human being that's so focused on the next piece of real estate as if it's going to do something. You're not just another person watching the screen, waiting for the show to get to its climatic point, and then turning it off and wondering, what will I rent later? What am I going to rent now? What can I rent that will give me 7 shows in a row that I could waste 7 hours of my life in a row without having to think in between, what will I rent later? And that's what you would do. In the secular world, that's exactly what you do. You take a series that you've never seen, you buy the whole series or you rent the whole series, 7 DVDs, 10 DVDs, 20 DVDs, each one of them has, 20 hours, 30 hours worth of shows, and you literally burn weeks of your life watching a marathon of some show that's been already gone and off the air for 10 years. But now you're going to watch it from the first show it had in 1982 all the way till when it finished 10, 20 years later. And you're watching all of the shows one after another, seeing it build up. And you're wasting one afternoon after another. And you don't go to sleep at night because you watch the show. And you don't go to work in the morning because you watch the show. And your whole life now for the next 3 weeks is watching the show. This is what we do when we don't have Torah. You watch the show. But why do you buy this series? Because you also don't want to think, what do I watch next? So you just take one block of time. Oh, how long is this? So, this is only a week's worth of life to burn. No. You have anything longer? You have a longer standing series that will burn 3 weeks out of my life? When a person has a purpose in his life because he's connected to Hashem, yes, it creates fear. But the fear is fear of wasting time. Fear of wasting your life. Fear of making a mistake and waking up 50, 60 years later realizing it's too late to fix it. That fear actually creates joy because now you wake up every day and you have a mission. Your mission is to serve Hashem, regardless of how. It could be through your job that works for some UPS or delivery system. It could be through your marriage, that you're married to a very difficult spouse, but nonetheless you still make it work. It could be through your kids that may be a little bit driving you crazy, but you're going to do everything you can to make sure they get a good education and have a head on their shoulders. It could be through your bank account that could barely make it through the month. The bank account itself is calling. It's like, listen, you got to put some stuff in here. I'm not just going to stay open for free. You got to put some stuff in here. That purpose comes in different ways. It's not necessarily always through the obvious, which is through learning Torah. It's applying the Torah. But applying the Torah requires purity of mind, purity of neshama. You cannot look at filthy things that are against the Torah, and expect the Torah to reward you. If you look at the book instead of the girl, if you look at the book instead of the television, if you look at the book instead of something that's against Hashem, the Torah says, you're looking at me? Okay. Let me show you something. Torah rewards you. Torah is a living thing. It's not some rock. It's a living thing. And if you respect the Torah, it will gift you more knowledge about itself. More knowledge about itself. Same thing as you have in a relationship. When Shlomo HaMelech wrote Shir HaShirim, people thought it was what's wrong with you, Shlomo? We thought you were a tzaddik. Well, you're writing this provocative song between a man and a woman. But then the sages realized this is not holy. This is holy of holies. Why? This is the relationship between Am Yisrael and a Borei Barach. This is between Am Yisrael and its Torah Kedosha. Where each time we get closer, more is uncovered. Each time you spill your guts out to your wife, she tells you, you know what, you did it? Let me tell you what I really feel. Each time you say the truth, Hashem says, let me show you something. Each time you dedicate more to His Torah, Hashem says, you didn't go to the game. You went to the shiur, let me show you a chidush. This chidush is going to change your life. Because purity doesn't happen by itself. Ministering to the sages, helping the chachamim, closeness with colleagues, sharpness, discussion with students. These are all things that require other people. The Torah Akdosha is not something that you're supposed to only study by yourself. Even though self-study is necessary, every chacham always had somebody that at some point that he studied by themselves, but they also had other people they study with. In a shiur, in a discussion, in a chavruta, you have to find somebody in your life that's going to be able to serve each one of these. You have to find a Rav that you're going to respect what he says as if Moshe Rabbeinu himself said it. You have to find a colleague that's going to put you against the wall, not to challenge you for the sake of challenge, just to show you he knows more, but rather to make sure that you arrive at the emet. And also you have to already prepare yourself that one day someone's going to ask you a question that you're not going to know the answer. And you're going to have to go and say, you know what? I don't know the answer, but let's look for it together. Yeah, but Abba, I'm only 11. Perfect. Abba, you're 50 and I'm 15. We're really going to have a discussion together about this? Yes. Because you asked me a question, son, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question. But it's too important to just say, I don't know. We have to go find it, son. Since you asked the question, we're going to go find the answer together. That means you're smart enough to get the answer too. If you ask the question, that means you're smart enough to get the answer. So I want you to be my chavruta. Deliberation, knowledge of scripture, Mishnah. You have to think about all the things that you read, but you cannot focus on one thing. Some people love to focus on the scripture, just reading the Chumash, reading a little bit of the Tanakh. You ask him, okay, but you realize that your conclusion to what you said is wrong because you didn't learn the halakha. He goes, no, I don't focus on halakha. I'd rather just focus on what Rashi said. Okay, but Rashi was telling you what's happening in Torah. He's not telling you the halakha there. If you actually go to the section of where Rashi discussed the halakha, Rashi will tell you the halakha. He was one of the Gdolei Ador, Gdolei Poskim. But you're not reading the part that he talks about halakha. You're talking about the part he's talking about midrash. So even if you want to focus on Rashi, go to the halakha that Rashi said. You can't just focus on one aspect of the Torah. Oh no, I like Tanakh. Okay, you like Tanakh, Chazak u'Baruch, but you also need to know halakha. Oh, I like halakha. Okay, but you also need to know Tanakh. Oh, I like Tanakh, I like halakha. Oh, but you also need to know Musa. You also need to know the Gemara. There's a lot of parts of the Torah. You can't just focus on one thing. Torah is endless. And we have structure that we have to acquire knowledge about each and every aspect of it. It's like, yeah, but what if I just focus on the Chumash, then I'm going to know the entire Chumash. Great, you're going to know the entire Chumash, but still end up in Gehinom. Why? Because you don't know how to be a Jew. You don't know how to keep Shabbat. Oh, if I just focus on, okay, you know what? Forget the Chumash. I'll focus on halakha. Okay, you're still going to go to Gehinom. Why? I know all the halachot. Yeah, you know all the halachot, but unfortunately, you're not following all of them. Number one of the halachot is that you have to read Chumash. One of the halachot is you have to read Chumash. What is the halachot? One of the halachot you have to read Chumash. Shtay mikra echad targum. You're not even following what you're reading. Number two, you're not going to know how to behave. You have to learn Musar. You have to learn how to be a decent human being. So you know all the halachot like a computer, but Hashem is not looking for computers. He can buy them for $199 on eBay. He's looking for people that know how to be people. You can't just focus on one thing. You have to, a little bit of each thing, every day. It's like, yeah, but then I'll never finish. Perfect. Then you're fulfilling the Mishnah. Mishnah says, you're not learning Torah to finish. You can't finish anyway. There's no way to finish. Even if you read the entire Chumash in 1 week, you're still not finished. Why? Because all you know is what you know for that week. You read it again another week, you're going to read something else. Same thing with halakha, same thing with Gemara, same thing with Musa. You watch this shiur that we're having today. I don't even know what I'm going to say yet. You watch this shiur we have today 500 times. Each time you're going to find something new. I wish it wasn't me speaking so I could watch the shiur also, but I can't watch myself. Limited business activity, limited sexual activity, limited pleasure, limited sleep, limited conversation, limited laughter. These are all things that are pleasures of the world. Torah is not telling us not to do it. It's telling us not to make those things the priority in our life. Unfortunately, we grow up in a world where when you're a teenager, the first and most important thing in your life is to find a girl. And after you find the girl, it's to do everything you possibly can to have fun in other ways. And then it's to get money. Then it's constantly material. Before you know it, you're already 45 years old. And you realize, okay, well, I have all this material that I want, but I'm still miserable. So you know what? Let me get some more material. That's what people do. They think that maybe if they get more material, more money, then they're going to be happy. So now we skipped another 10 years. 55, even more miserable than he was at 45. He has the kids that he wanted or didn't want. He has the wife that he wanted or he didn't want. Maybe it's the third wife. He has the car and the second car and the fourth car and the fifth car. He has the house and the other house and the job. He has all the material. But he's 55 and he's still miserable. He doesn't know what to do. It's like, so maybe if I sell all this material, then I'll be happy. So he sells everything. And now he has just a bunch of cash that's not really cash anymore because today it's all digital. So he has a screen that tells him he has a bunch of cash. But now he says, I need stuff. So he starts spending the money that he just sold in order to buy new stuff. So he gives himself temporary pleasure because now he feels like it's all new again. Another 10 years have passed. He's 65 years old, even more miserable than he was at 55 and much more miserable at 45. By the time he realizes that you cannot acquire happiness through stuff, it's too late. So Torah Kedusha is not telling us not to enjoy the world. If Hashem didn't want you to enjoy it, He wouldn't make it enjoyable. But you could enjoy everything in life in a kosher way. Rav Yagen Alav Shalom used to say, I can do everything that you do. And he was talking to a crowd of secular soldiers. I can do everything that you do. But I'm going to go to Gan Eden, and you're going to go to Gehinnom. One of the soldiers says, hey, why? He says, because I'm doing the same thing you do, but I do it in a kosher way. You want physical pleasure? You have to get married. You're doing it without getting married. My wife is Torah. Your girlfriend of today is Nida. I get worlds in Shamayim created for me just because I'm holding my wife's hand. You get worlds of Gehinnom and explosions just because you're holding her hand. You eat, I eat. I get worlds of pleasure and joy because I eat a kosher piece of chicken. You get worlds of explosions and punishment, and they're going to punch you and take your tongue out and rip you off the wall and all those things because you ate non-kosher chocolate. Chocolate, what? Chocolate's a big deal. Yeah, chocolate's a big deal. Why? Some chocolates have bug in them. Some chocolates, for some flavoring, some little extra flavoring, they put some beetles in them. Delicious. So the thing is, Rabotai, is that he says to them, is that you can do everything that you want to do, but I can teach you how to do it in a kosher way. All the pleasures in the world have a kosher way to do it. Buria, the wife of Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, asked him, okay, you're saying the Torah, says there's no way to miss out. Okay, I want to eat pork. I want to eat bacon, pig. But I can't eat pig. So, there's missing out. Rabbi Meir says, no. There's a fish called shibuta. There's a fish called shibuta. It's still around to this day. It's in Africa. I believe there's certain oceans in Africa. And there's actually also a certain duck in Japan, where their meat, both the fish and this duck, taste exactly like bacon. It's okay. I want to eat blood. I want to eat blood. Not allowed to eat blood. Blood is the nefesh. Not allowed to eat blood. Stop. No problem. Liver. Kosher liver tastes exactly like blood. Kosher liver tastes exactly like blood. I want to eat cheeseburger. I want to eat cheeseburger. You can eat certain parts of the stomach, cow's stomach, it has a taste of cheese and meat. Why? Because not the stomach, the part that carries the milk of the cow. The part that carries the milk of the cow, put it on a nice little barbecue, delicious. Kosher cheeseburger. Without the soya, mamash. Allowed to eat. Everything you want, there's a kosher way to do it. Everything you want. Meaning that no one can arrive at Shamayim and say, Hashem, listen, if you didn't want me to do it, why'd you make it? He goes, no, I made it for you to enjoy it. But you didn't care enough to find the legal way. You just cared about the joy part. So you didn't care about me. You cared about serving yourself. So joy is something we're supposed to do, but there's a kosher way to do it. Erech apayim, slowness to anger, a good heart, faith in our sages. These are all different midot, different things that a person must have, not only to be a ben Torah, to have the crown of Torah, but to be a decent human being. If every single time somebody upsets you, you make sure that everyone knows that he upsets you. You make sure that he knows he upsets you, that she knows she upsets you. In fact, the walls know that he upsets you because they're trying to hold your yelling contained into just one house without shattering. Then forget about this crown of Torah, forget about everything. Why? You can't even be a decent human being. Just because you're upset doesn't mean you need to express it in such a vocal, horrible way. You have to find a way to control it. Sometimes the best thing to do is to walk away. Somebody you see is making you really upset and they're not going to stop because they're just that way, because they have the Yetzer Hara got into them and they want to pick at you. They want to pick at you. They want to pick at you. And you know they're not going to stop. You tell them, stop, please. No, it's annoying. It's really making me upset. No, but do it. No, show me. No, do it. It's like, I don't want to do it. Just stop. And every time they egg you on. Like they want to see you explode. Yetzer Hara is inside them and they want to see you explode. They want to see what happens. They're daring you to explode. Now, unless you've become very serious Talmid Chacham with extraordinary midot, you're Baal Shem Tov, that you don't get angry anymore. Unless you don't get angry anymore, what do? You got to walk away. You got to simply, physically walk away. If it's on the phone, listen, I got to go. I'll call you later. Click. I got to go. Bye. No, they're going to be upset. Let them be upset. It's better they're upset than you're upset. It's better they're upset that you hung up on them because you're avoiding on upsetting Hashem by expressing the anger that you really want. So sometimes you just have to walk away. It's the only solution. Other times you have to, when you have time and you're not in the middle of the heat and you're in the middle of the anger, when you're in the middle of anger, it's very hard to think. Because Chazal tell us that when you get angry, you forget. You forget everything. You forget Torah, you forget anything. Sometimes you forget your own name. Forget where you're supposed to be. Start doing stupid things. The more angry a person gets, the more foolish he becomes. Sometimes a person forgets that he has people are watching. He does stupid things. How many times have you heard or seen these pictures or videos of people that just lose their mind and start breaking stuff in the middle of like the airport or in traffic or something like that? I mean, there's countless videos of these people losing their cool. I remember in the old days there was a video of people that have lost their cool at work. So the cameras, in those days not everybody had a phone, so everybody had the cameras and the things, and somebody made a compilation of people that lost their cool at work. Something happened on the computer, somebody yelled at them or whatever it was, and you see these people, they're sitting down, they're heating up, and they just lose it. Take the screen, throw it, take the printers, take the chairs, destroy the whole office. Like literally they forgot that there's another 20, 30, 50, 100 people there. Completely ignoring it. Something I saw just the other day. Some guy, I don't know, he got upset or something. He decided to break every machine in the airport. In China or one of these countries. He decided to literally break one machine after another. You just push people out of the way. The ones that you check in. The machines you check in, you put your ID and everything, and it spits out the ticket. So you push the person on the line, push it away, and then take his suitcase and smash it. Then push the next person away, push the machine on the floor, and then smash the screen. One after another. I couldn't believe he didn't get arrested by the second machine. He broke like five machines or more. You don't realize there's people here? You don't realize that there's other people have also flights and meetings and family and stuff to do, that what you're doing is disturbing them? No. when your anger is expressed in such a way, you forget who you are, you forget what you're doing, and the only thing you're going to have is regret. So a person, if he doesn't know how to control himself, he needs to learn how to run away, walk away from everything. Go and outside, get some fresh air, drink some cold water, smash your head against the wall if you need to. Whatever you need to do, just don't express your anger in front of people. On the opposite end, a person needs to have a good heart. Good heart, it seems odd that a good heart is right next to anger, but it's actually not. The reason why is because in order to have this Keter Torah, in order to have this crown of Torah, a person needs to have the desire to see other people succeed. Not just himself. If he's just a selfish person, and he only himself wants to succeed, and he doesn't like to see other people succeed, that person will never actually succeed in a spiritual way. Why? Because all of his efforts are coming from arrogance. All of his efforts are coming from ego. All of his efforts are like a challenge. He's learning Torah like he's playing sports. Now, although you're supposed to be ambitious and you're supposed to acquire a lot, it's not because you're trying to win against the other person. It's because you're trying to win against yourself, against your Yetzirah. So, one of the Chachamim says that one of the children came to him and says, Kvod Harav, you know, this Rabbi, they had a big party, and he his kollel, he had 200 students there. He was really, you see him, he was so happy about all the Torah they're bringing to the world. What a tzaddik. What a tzaddik. He was so happy. All of his avrechim were celebrating. They were taking the Gemara, taking in the air, they're celebrating and everything. You should have been there, Kvod Harav. He goes, what makes you think he's a tzaddik? So, he has all these Talmidim. He has all these Talmidim in his kollel. Must be a tzaddik, no? He says, no, that's not really an indication of tzaddik. It's indication that he succeeded in having 200 Talmidim and collecting the money to pay for 200 Talmidim. But if you want to know if he's a tzaddik, tell me if he's just as happy and just as celebrating if he sees 200 students somewhere else, under somebody else's control, under somebody other rabbi. If he's just as happy seeing those 200 Talmidim learning somewhere else, then he's a tzaddik. Because that means he's happy because of the Torah, not because of his achievements. Not because of his achievements. If you're just as happy about his chidush as you are about yours, then you have a good heart. But if you're only happy to hear your own chidushim, then you're just full of ga'ava, no different than Korach. Faith in the sages. A person needs to know that when we say things in the names of the sages, whether it's the sages of the Gemara, or it's the sages of the Rishonim, or the Achronim, or even literally just the previous generation, when you mention one of these sages, you have no right whatsoever to mock it. And if you want to disagree with it, like you have actually the gall to disagree with something that was said, you can't just say, I disagree, because that would simply make you a moron. You looked smart until you started talking. You can't just say, I disagree. Many people do that. You tell them, oh, listen, the Rambam said that Mechalel Shabbat is considered an idol worshiper. Yeah, I don't agree with that. Okay, you're a fool. Why? Because you think that you can disagree with the Rambam. The fact that you think you can disagree with the Rambam, like he's like you, makes you realize you don't even know who the Rambam is, and makes you realize that you don't even know who you are. You think you're him, and you think he's you. That doesn't mean that you can't disagree. You can disagree, but you have to have a source. You have to have a source. You have to have a source. What's the source? Oh, you want to disagree with what the Rambam says? Okay, so who said otherwise? Who said otherwise? Rambam said this. Who said otherwise? Oh, my rabbi. Your rabbi, you mean from 5779? 900 years after the Rambam? So he's worse than you then, because he has the title of rabbi. No, give me a real source. Oh, it's another rabbi from 100 years ago. I'm sorry. 100 years ago, not 900 years ago. You can't. You can't just do that. You have to go somebody, the generation of the Rambam, somebody that's in that level, or at the very least, somebody that got other people. Say, oh, wait, the Shulchan Aruch didn't do psak like the Rambam on certain things. So what, the Shulchan Aruch is mocking the Rambam? Chas v'shalom. No, the Shulchan Aruch used psaks of certain things. There were many of them were the Rambam. Some of them were not. Why? Because there were other sages that had a different opinion, and he was lenient in other things, he was more machmir on others. The point is, he didn't just decide out of his own mind. 400 years after the Rambam, because the Shulchan Aruch was about 500 years ago, Rambam was 900 years ago. He didn't just decide out of his own mind, no, I just want to disagree with the Rambam. Or I just want to disagree with the Gemara. Or I just want to disagree with... No, don't do that. You have to have faith in the sages. If they said it, there's a reason for it. You want to disagree, you have to have somebody else disagree. That's much bigger than you. You will never, ever have a chidush that disagrees with the sages that's right. The chidush you can have is finding somebody else that was right and you found it. That would be the chidush. That would be the insight. You found somebody else. But if it's your own thought that has no backings and no sage agrees with you, it is guaranteed to always be wrong. That's the rule in the Torah that we have. These are rules in the Torah that we have. There's certain rules. Generation, the Amoraim cannot go against the Tanaim. The Amora came after the Tana. For example, Rabbi Akiva was a Tana. Abaye was a Mora. So Abaye can't say, no, Rabbi Akiva is wrong. Can't say that. You have to say, wait, I need to find another Tana. Abaye needs to find Abaye. Kodesh Kodeshim Abaye. He says, no, I can't say that Rabbi Akiva is wrong. But I can find another Tana that said Rabbi Akiva is wrong. And if I can find another Tana that said Rabbi Akiva is wrong, then I have something to rely on. I have something to rely on. Why? Because they're, in essence, the same level, same generation, same time frame. But me, 100 years later, I can't do it. Needless to say, 2,000 years later. So you can disagree, but not you disagree. You have to find somebody that disagrees. That's how it works. And that also is a type of faith in our sages that we have to have. Meaning that you have to know, not just assume, you have to know that if something became halacha, they thought about what you're thinking in 5,000 different ways. They thought that yes, fire will develop and it's not always going to be in a bonfire to make burgers. One day it's going to be used for other things like ovens. They had ovens too, just less technology than we have. Cars, they didn't have cars, but they had other things, that trains, and so on and so forth. They didn't live in a cave like the cavemen. So they knew that things developed. They saw things develop. They were part of the development. So they thought about all of these things that you're thinking about. And if they made the halacha as it is, you could be assured it's right. If you want to say it's wrong, you can't say you think it's wrong. You have to find somebody that said it's wrong that's in their level. That's faith in our sages. Acceptance of suffering. As Rabbi Nachman Breslov says in Likutei Maharan, Rabbi Natan writes in his name, it's one of the things that a person needs to know is suffering happens to everybody. In Likutei Maharan, Tananya, lesson 119, Rabbi Natan says in the name of Rabbi Nachman Breslov the following. The Rebbe spoke to us several times about suffering in this world. How everyone is filled with suffering. That there's not a single person who enjoys this world. Rabbi Nachman Breslov is saying here, not a single person enjoys the world. He's not breakdancing in the middle of the street like they portray. Even the great, wealthy, and even the nobles do not enjoy this world at all. All of their days are filled with frustration and pain. They're always filled with troubles and worries and sadness and sorrow and anguish. Each and every one has his unique suffering. And none of the wealthy or nobles have everything always go as they wish. All of them, to the one, are always filled with suffering and worries. And this is clear and known to anyone who is any bit familiar with them and their life. A lot of people like to look at the celebrities, the famous and the fortunate, and say, if I was like them, I'd be happy. If I had $100 billion, I'd be happy. If I had a house, I'd be happy. If I had this, I'd be happy. We have our sages telling you the opposite. If that's what you think is happiness, you will never reach happiness. Why? Because you think that he is happy because he has stuff. All that shows is that, number one, you have no idea what happiness is. And number two, you don't know him. Because if you knew him, you would know he's not happy. And if you knew what happiness was, you would know it's not possible to attain happiness through what he's doing. You can have wealth and fortune and so on and be happy at the same time. It is possible. But the happiness is not because or due to the wealth and fortune. And he says, the Rabbi continued and spoke to us several times about this, and we saw this with our own eyes. Even someone who seems to have it all in this world, with all of the pleasures, the wealth, the property, the honor, the great fortune, the huge palaces, the beautiful vessels and the jewelry, the treasures of royalty, if one looks at him closely, you will see that he too is filled with much frustration and pain all of the time. And in many ways and issues, as can be empirically seen. It's redundant to expound upon this for anyone who has a mind in his skull and looks a bit at them. Meaning anybody that has any common sense, you don't need to explain this too much detail. Anyone knows this. As Shlomo HaMelech said, all of his days are frustration and pains. Ecclesiastes 2:23 uses the source. Or as Job said, a person is born to toil, short of days and filled with frustration. So here, we are already a little bit upset. Why? Because you're kind of telling us that we can't be happy. Not true. We didn't finish. We're just saying that the vast majority of people are miserable from the beginning of time until today. Miserable. Why? Because they're trying to attain happiness the wrong way. It's like you're opening the bottle, turning the bottle upside down and trying to drink from the bottom. And you never quench your thirst. Why? Because all of the liquid's going to the floor. There is no strategy or plan of action to be spared from this toil and sorrow other than to flee to God and to devote oneself to Torah. For even if one would possess everything in the world, he would then surely have much toil and suffering and worries. He says that the toil, the difficulty, the suffering, that everyone has and everyone will have. The secret is to use all of that for the serving of Hashem. If you're already going to work hard for Hashem. If you're already going to suffer, know that it's coming from Hashem and it has a purpose. And therefore already 99% of the suffering is not really suffering anymore. Why? Because you feel like, this is work. This too is work. This too is serving Hashem. The Baal Shem Tov Alav Shalom says that if Hashem wants me to go to Gehinom, I'm jumping in there. Why? If that's what He wants, I'm doing it. It's part of the job. That's part of the job. And he concluded by saying that everyone says that there is this world and the world to come. But the reality is, regarding this world, the world to come, We believe that there is a world to come, but only maybe that there is this world. Because this world seems like hell. For everyone is always filled with great suffering. And then he said, this world does not exist at all. Rabbi Nachman Breslev, Alav Shalom, says that world to come, we know it has. We know the world to come. We know Olam Haba. We know that the whole purpose of you being here is for the purpose of earning a place in the world to come. That we know. This world, we're not really so sure. Why? Because when you finally arrive at the world to come, this world will seem but a dream. This world will just seem like, wow, that was 70 years? All that anguish and stuff, that's it? All the crying and praying, all the stuff that I did, I complained non-stop, that's it? Now I'm here, I'm here for eternity. Meaning that 70, 80, 90, 120 years in this world is nothing. It's not even a fraction of eternity. And the world to come is eternity. So if a person starts using his suffering for the sake of serving Hashem, if she uses her suffering as a way to serve Hashem, such as when you're suffering, pray. When you're suffering, think about all the things that are not suffering. Think about the good you have. Yeah, but I'm suffering. I know you're suffering. I'm an expert in suffering. But the only way to use and utilize that tool that Hashem is giving you as suffering to make it not the same type of suffering, the pain's still there, is by at that moment actively thinking, what's good from here? Why is this pain? Why is my skin feeling like it's on fire good? Why is my back hurting like somebody just hit me with a bat 16 times? A metal one, not the wood one. The wood one breaks. Metal one, why is that good for me? Why? What's Hashem getting out of this? What is he, sadistic? People think that Hashem is sadistic. Sick people. There has to be something good. What's good? The only way you're going to learn that is if you learn Omek Hadin. You learn about the depth of judgment and what this suffering is replacing. The Gaon Vilna one time told his students what happens the moment a person dies. They call it Chibut HaKever. The moment a person dies, body goes into a little box. They put the sand on him, and as soon as the last bit of sand is on top of him and the people walk away, the angels show up, and party starts. One of his students passed out. So they came to the Rabbi, they came to the Gaon Vilna, and said, Kvod Harav, maybe you could, he's hysterical, maybe you could do something. After the shiur, he can't stop thinking about it, he's really scared. Maybe the Rav can, cheer him up a little bit. He says, cheer him up, there's nothing I can do, it's all true. It's actually not even everything. I just told him a minute. I was telling him the first couple of minutes of what happened. I'm not telling you everything else. Well, cheer him up. It's all true. So, when a person understands that if you suffer a little bit here, it removes from your suffering over there, and the suffering here is temporary, whereas the suffering there can be eternal. Our sages tell us if someone knew the value of suffering, we'd pray for it. Just like you pray for Parnasat Tova, Zivug Agun, good kids, and all the things that you pray for, you'd pray for suffering. And that's what the Gaon Mivina says. He says, but there's one thing that we all have no idea about. We know what Gehenom looks like. We know all the chambers. We know Kafa Kela. We know all those things. But we don't have a tiny idea, a tiny concept of how valuable our suffering is. How much our suffering in this world removes from suffering possibilities in there. To such an extent that if we knew, we'd ask for it. This is what the Gaon Mivina taught. But then we have the next part of the Mishnah. It says, "Amakiret mekomo." Know where you stand. Know your place. If you know that as soon as your finger hurts, you're going to start crying to Hashem as if He just gave you the Holocaust, don't pray for. Don't do anybody any favors. Don't ask for suffering. You're not at that place. You don't need to know where you stand. Some people say, "Oh no, I'm going to pray for suffering. This sounds good. I'm praying for suffering." The next day they twisted their ankle or something, or the bank account didn't, the ATM machine didn't work, or something minimal. Already they're crying, "Oh Hashem, why are you doing this to me? Why?" Do us a favor. Do yourself a favor. Don't ask for suffering. Why? You can't even handle the suffering you deserve. You want suffering that's on top of it? Know your mekomo. Know where you stand. V'sameach bechelko. Be happy with what you have. Being happy with what you have, Rabotai, is something that most people simply do not know how to do. Forget about doing it. They don't know how to do it. Because we spend much of our time looking at our neighbor. We spend much of our time comparing ourselves to other people. Now, if you're comparing how much Torah somebody else achieved versus what you achieved, in order to push yourself further, that's a good thing. That's good jealousy. That's actually the reason why Hashem gave it to you. But if you're looking at somebody's assets and you're jealous from it, you're thinking, "Oh, that car he has, I should have it. That house he has, I should have it. That wife he has, I should have it." You should know that such a person could literally lose his olam haba. Just like that. Why? Because sometimes that jealousy gets out of control and a person takes action. He looks at his friend's wife one too many times, then he decides to befriend her. Then he decides to capitalize on a fight that they had. "Oh yeah, he's not good enough for you. I'll treat you better. If I was your husband, I'd treat you better," he says to her. He decides that he wants to be Romeo and Juliet. They're also in Gehenom, by the way, if they existed. Why? Because there's rules to the world. You have to be happy with whatever you have. You have suffering, be happy with it. You have good, be happy with it. You have a wife, be happy with her. You have a husband, be happy with her. But the reason that the generation today is very different than the previous generation is because, you see, in the old days, people got married and they also got into arguments. Today, people get married and they get into arguments. On that aspect, nothing changed. So why is the divorce rate today 80, 90% in some parts of America and the rest of the world, whereas in the old days it was close to 8%? We're talking about 1,000% difference. Divorce was frowned upon and rare, and it was usually due to adultery or something like that, where you pretty much couldn't stay together. It was almost not just non-existent. Whereas today, the average person is divorced. It's not rare, it's not frowned upon. You don't even cringe when you hear it. It's like, "Oh yeah, he's divorced and he has 3 kids." And it's not like a bad quality anymore. It's like, "Oh yeah, of course he's divorced. Everybody I know is divorced." If he's not divorced, then there's something wrong. If she's not divorced, there's something wrong. Maybe she killed her husband. That's why she's not divorced. She's a widow. What do you mean she's not divorced? Like, divorce is like a character trait now. Why? Why is there such a difference? Because back then, if you got into an argument, you realized also at the same time you're arguing, "I got to fix this." When something broke, you fixed it. Today, something breaks, you have no interest whatsoever in fixing it. You simply want to replace it. The doorknob on the fridge breaks. You want to buy a whole new fridge. Yeah, but it's just the doorknob. You don't even need the doorknob in order to cool the food. No, the whole thing, it's garbage. What garbage? Just a piece of plastic. You could glue it. You could do something. No, it's garbage. It's garbage. If you treat the fridge like it's garbage because the doorknob broke or the little wheel broke and all of a sudden you have to replace the whole thing as soon as one little piece of plastic breaks, guess what? Eventually you're going to have the same behavior for your wife and kids. Eventually you're going to have the same behavior for your husband and your kids and your parents and everybody else. Why? You have no willpower to fix anything. In order to acquire Keter Torah, you must get yourself used to fixing stuff, not replacing it. Fix your neshama, don't replace it. Fix your marriage, don't replace it. Most things you can fix. You don't have to replace them. You know how many times I get people and they tell me, oh, I'm having marriage problems, so I think I'm going to get a divorce. Why? That fast? That fast, that's it? I just got a text message the other day. Yeah, this is not working out. I think I'll have to talk to the Beit Din. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Didn't they just get married 3 months ago? Already it's not working out? What do you think it was going to be, like a glove? Like it's just going to be custom made? You just got to know each other. Of course it's not going to work out. It's not supposed to work out. You don't know anything about each other. It's 3 months into it. It's going to be about at least 20 years before it starts working out. 20 years, maybe it's going to start working out. For the first 20 years, you're fixing every day, because every day you make a mistake because you don't know each other yet. If you think your marriage is supposed to work out on day one, you shouldn't get married. Please do the world a favor, don't get married. Why? Because it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out because you don't know each other. Yeah, but we lived together for 2 years. That's a mistake of its own. Let's get on for that also. But you still don't know each other. You live together as boyfriend, girlfriend. Living together as husband, wife is two different things. A relationship is a constant fixing. Constant. Your relationship with your spouse, constant fixing. Your relationship with your kids, constant fixing. Your relationship with Hashem, constant fixing. Why? You don't know what you're doing. So you fix it after you get to know it. It's like, oh, I can't believe I prayed too late. And I said the Amidah too late. I'm not allowed to do it. I can't do it. So tomorrow I'm not going to do it. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up earlier. So tomorrow I'm going to fix it. Oh, I can't believe I put Rabbeinu Tam before Rashi. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to fix it. Oh, I can't believe I read this before I read this. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to... Every day you're fixing your Avodat Hashem. What do you think? The marriage is different? Every day you're going to upset each other in some way. If you don't work on fixing it, guess what? It's all going to gather up and gather up and gather up. And one day you're going to get a notice. Dear spouse, the end. Sign here. Why? What do you mean? You don't see the pile of garbage that's acquired over the last several months, several years, several decades? Divorces don't just happen. Breakups don't just happen. Gehenom doesn't just happen. All of it happens as a result of ignoring fixing. Ignoring the problem for an extraordinary amount of time to the point where as if it doesn't exist. There's a pile of manure in the middle of your living room and you're saying, well, I think the neighbors should check their yard. I think maybe their dog did something in the yard. Like you're blaming the neighbors, you're blaming the kid in the diaper, you're blaming everything except your problem that you have in the living room. It's like just pay attention, open your eyes. The problem is inside your living room. It's you, you're the problem. But that's what the Gemara says. A person that doesn't learn musar, a person that doesn't rebuke himself, en adam roeh chova le'atzmo. He doesn't see the obligation himself. Now how do we get to a point of paying attention and being happy? By getting to the next aspect, which is making a protective fence around yourself. What is a protective fence, be'emet? What, I need to live around a physical fence? Obviously not. What is this protective fence? A person that is looking to acquire the most special thing that this world has to offer, which is the crown of Torah, the connection to Hashem, the ultimate connection to Hashem, at the very least should understand that he's trying to acquire the most valuable thing you can acquire. Now, if you view it as that, you view it correctly, that this is the priceless diamond, this is eternity, this is everything, you're going to treat it accordingly. But treating it accordingly means that you have to take precautions. You can't just say, oh, this is really priceless. No, no, no. Saying that the painting is priceless means nothing. Protecting the painting from being damaged, that's valuable. Saying words don't cost anything. But protecting the priceless from being damaged, that's worth something. So a person that's looking to acquire this Keter Torah will take precautions to avoid sin. Because this shows that they have an esteem, they view the Torah with a high level of esteem, that they view the Torah as something that's truly priceless, because if you have a piece of rock, you're not going to hold back from throwing it in the air to play with it. Little rock, you just picked it up off the floor, you're going to throw it in the air and then catch it, throw it in the air and then catch it. Hopefully it doesn't hit you in the face, but you're not worried about the rock breaking. You're not worried about that. But if you had not a rock that's worthless, but instead you're going to have a 150 carat pink diamond, meaning the same size as the rock, but it's a pink diamond that's probably worth something in the neighborhood of $1 billion, if not more. You're not going to throw it in the air. In fact, you're probably not even going to hold it. Not only you're not going to throw it in the air, you're probably not going to hold it. You're going to put it into a nice, beautiful, soft, cushy bag that no one can see what's inside. It has to be like a black bag. Why? Because if they see there's a diamond in there, you're in danger already. That's already danger. Somebody else seeing you have a diamond, already you understand that's danger. Why? Because who knows if they control themselves. No, but just that is not enough. Why? This is not a $5 diamond. This is $1 billion diamond. So the bag is not enough. So what do? You get a safe. But not just any safe that you buy from Staples for $99. You get a safe that corresponds, that gives the respect for this diamond. A safe, you buy a building. The whole building is safe. And the building has steel and cement and steel and more cement and steel. And then it has security systems with lasers and security guards. And there's dogs. And there's more security guards. And there's a system. And it's very complicated. And the only one that can tell it is you. And it has to read your retina. And it has to read your fingerprint. And all the different things where you're the only one that can actually access this diamond. Why? Because it's priceless. If you view the Torah, the crown of Torah, the relationship you have with Hashem as priceless, you would do just the same. Which means you would do everything possible to avoid damaging that relationship, damaging that holy soul that Hashem gave you. You'll do everything to avoid the things that damage it. And what damages it? Even the atheists know that sin damages the soul. The atheist even knows it. Why? Because he knows a lot about religion, he just doesn't want to follow it. The atheists actually know more about religion than some people that say they're religious. They just don't want to follow it. They believe they're God. But they know a lot about the religion. The reality is that if you know that sin damages this relationship you have with Hashem, that sin damages your understanding of the Torah. Sin damages your relationship with Hashem, and sin will ultimately damage you in many countless ways in this world and the next. You will do everything possible to avoid sin worse than the plague. Many years ago, there was a plague in Europe that killed somewhere in a neighborhood of 60 to 100 million people. Called it the Black Plague. Look on the internet, Wikipedia, Black Plague. Do you know what 60 to 100 million people is? You're talking about 10 Holocausts. But that doesn't really give us a visual because none of us, Baruch Hashem, were at the Holocaust, at least not this version of us. So I'll give you an understanding of what is it. You ever go to New York? New York, you go into the, if you ever go to New York, you're in New York City, not the boroughs. You go to New York City, made a sin in your life and you have to go there, Kaparat Avot. And New York City has a place called Broadway. And Broadway is something called Times Square. Everybody knows what Times Square is. Even the people that live in China and don't have a TV, they know what Times Square is. Why? Because they made it very popular in the years past about the ball, the New Year's, and all that stuff. Now, during the average day, you're talking about a 7-figure, over 1 million people walk through Broadway every single day. And at any given moment, there's 1 million people going through it back and forth, up, down the stairs, in the buildings, out of the buildings, in the subway, out of the subway, up, down, everywhere. There's countless people there all the time. At night, in the morning, it never sleeps. Constantly there's people. Obviously during the day there's much more than at night, but needless to say, there's always people there. Times Square, times that by 10. During, not Times Square, New Year's. New Year's, times it by 10. This place is huge. But during New Year's, from the morning, not even at night only, from the morning, people already stand there in a freezing cold. It's the coldest time of the year. Freezing cold, and you can't move. You cannot move. Your heat is the body heat of 5 million people. You're blowing smoke, but you feel like you're on fire at the same time. You smoke from the cold, but you're on fire because it's 5 million people glued to you. You can't move. And everyone's waiting like a retard to the ball. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All it shows is they know how to count backwards. That's all it shows. And they know how to waste time. But they're there, and there's a lot of people. That is not even a fraction of 60 million. It's not even a respectable fraction of 60 million. A respectable fraction would be a quarter. Respectable fraction would be a third, a half. That's a respectable fraction that you know what it means. If I tell you it's a 16th, who knows what's a 16th? If I tell you it's an eighth, who cares about an eighth? Who uses eighths? Quarter, everybody knows. Your average kid that has a little bit of arithmetic knowledge knows what a quarter is, or a half is. Little kids, babies know what a half is. Oh, give me half. So, 60 million people died from a plague? 90 million some people say even more. There was literally mountains of bodies all over the streets. Mountains, walls of bodies. They made walls of bodies. Walled cities, just bodies, one after another. That's how much 60 million is. By the time they finished burying one body, 3 more people died. That's how much 60 million is. When a person wants to protect his soul, he realizes that even that plague that killed 60 to 100 million, maybe 300 million people. No one really knows the exact number. But we know it's the worst thing that the world has ever seen other than the flood. When a person knows the magnitude of sin, even the smallest one, if he really, really knows, he's more scared of the sin than the Black Plague. That's how scared he is. So how come we sin so much? All it shows is we simply don't know what it means to sin. That's all it shows. Not that we don't love Hashem. Not that we don't care about Hashem. Because the average person that's a normal person will say, I love Hashem. I thank Hashem. I love Hashem. I thank Hashem. Everybody says they love Hashem. Everybody will say, I thank Hashem. Yeah, but so why you drive on Shabbat? Has nothing to do with it. I love Hashem in my own way, they'll tell you. So how come you're cheating on your wife? Well, I love my wife. I just have desires. So what's the problem? They don't connect the two. They don't connect the sin with who they're going against. But the reality is that all that shows that we did not delve into it and consider all of the damage that we're creating. And part of the reason is because we don't do what it says in this week's parasha. In this week's parasha, in the beginning of the parasha, it says, "Va'Adonai olech lifneim yomam be'amud anan, lenechotam ader v'layla be'amud esh." In chapter 13, Parashat Beshalach, this week's parasha, it says that after Am Yisrael left Egypt, it says, and Hashem went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light. Hashem is constantly in front of Am Yisrael. B'siyata dishmaya, I thought, do we do the same thing as what this parasha says? Do we have Hashem in front of us as we're walking through life? Is Hashem at the top of our mind, in front of our mind, on our mind, bichlal? Before we do what we're doing, whether it's business, or it's marriage, or it's learning, or it's whatever it is that we're doing, is Hashem in front of us day and night like He was when He saved us 3,300 years ago from slavery? This parasha tells us Hashem is in front of us at all times. He wants to make sure we remember this pasuk. For what? He's not coming right now with a pillar of fire. We don't have the merit. He's not coming with a pillar of cloud. We don't have the merit to see it right now. So what does this pasuk mean? One of the things we can learn from it is that Hashem is trying to tell us, just like our relationship was in the beginning of how beautiful it was, when we first got married and I took you out of Egypt, you saw, you considered, you remembered, I was in front of you. I was a pillar of fire, I was a pillar of smoke. I was always there day and night. I expect the same now. I expect to be in front of you, on top of your mind at all times, day and night. When you think I'm watching and when you don't remember that I'm always there. Whether you like it or not, I'm there. Do we act that way? If we did, we wouldn't sin. The reality is we don't. Not all the time. Sometimes we do think about Hashem. It happens. It happens. Once in a while we think about Hashem. But not enough. Why? One of the reasons, Rabotai, is also what we said just the other day, is that Erev Rav also came with us. Erev Rav also came with us out of Egypt and have been torturing us ever since. Erev Rav came out of Egypt with us, and Erev Rav looks just like us. Erev Rav will fight against the Mashiach. Erev Rav is no different than Amalek himself. It's just one of the different types of Amalek. And Erev Rav is also someone that we can sometimes think is a tzaddik, a chassid. Because Erev Rav has multiple tools that they use to confuse us in order to cool us off. In order to think that Hashem maybe doesn't care. Hashem maybe he's not really watching. Hashem, maybe he doesn't really want this. Who knows what he really wants? Maybe he doesn't know what he wants. Maybe he's confused just like us. This Erev Rav will distort the Torah by using the Torah. They'll tell you the Torah says such and such, but it doesn't say that. But you're not going to check. They'll tell you the Torah says that after you die, the soul is confused for a year. It's confused, but then it becomes like God. The Torah says there's no Gehenom fire. That's just an analogy to get you to be a tzaddik. But if you're not, it's okay anyway. You and Moshe Rabbeinu are going to be best friends one day. The Torah says all of Am Yisrael gets a Olam Haba. Why? Because there's a Resh Lakish and a Gemara that says that even the Reshaim have mitzvot like the pomegranate. So it's okay, everything's okay. Now start using things from the Torah. Some of it doesn't exist, some of it exists, but they're distorting it, they're manipulating it. And unfortunately, the Erev Rav looks extremely righteous. It left Egypt with us. It had a beard just like us. Kippah just like this. Kisui Rosh just like this. They look perfect. They're not always looking like Amalek, like Goliath, missing an eye or something. No! They look like they're presentable. They're Gdolim. They're giants. They have a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of respect. Books they wrote. The Erev Rav, Rabotai, is one that Yaakov Avinu was crying to Hashem about. Atzileni na miyad achi miyad Esav. Who is the descendant of Esav? Amalek. Amalek is the descendant of Esav. Amalek is the grandson of Esav. And the Erev Rav is a result of Amalek. Unfortunately, in today's world, we simply sin because not only do we not think about Hashem, but even if we try to, the Erev Rav will constantly tell us, you're being fanatic. You're being fanatic, you're doing too much. Chill out, relax, you'll get there, don't worry. Drive a little bit longer on Shabbat until she's ready, until he's ready to keep it with you, then you both do it together. Then you both keep Shabbat together. But until she's not ready to keep Shabbat, don't worry. Everything's fine. Hashem understands. If Hashem wanted you to keep Shabbat, He'd make her stop. They'll tell you all types of stupid things like this. Why? In the name of Chassidut. Because Chassidut is supposed to make you happy, and this, and that, and you're not being happy. And they'll use different logic and rationale, and they'll sound like they're coaches. They'll sound like they're really expressing themselves in a very confident way, and they're sitting like this and and expressing like almost like they have, the world is in their hands. So when you see somebody like this, they look religious. They say they're religious. They mention the word Torah every so often. It's like, this guy must know. This woman must know. They're even mentioning amazing names. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Nachman Breslev, the big people, Rabbi Akiva, Moshe Rabbeinu. Wow, he must know them. He must know them. There was one time, one of the Gdolim came to a place of fools. And he gave them a lecture about Yetziat Mitzrayim. He says, what am I going to give him a lecture about? I'm going to give him a lecture about Yetziat Mitzrayim, what happened, Moshe Rabbeinu. At the end of the lecture, one of the kids in the crowd says, Abba, you think he's the baby? You think he's the baby from the story that went in a basket and then saved all those people? You think he's telling the truth? He says, not only is the baby, he's the one that went to the mountain. Instead of understanding, he's telling them a story to get them something, they're thinking the wrong thing. Because they're fools, because people are looking to be fools. Sometimes it's not even the criminal's fault. Sometimes it's not even the criminal's fault that he's fooling us. In fact, most of the time it's our fault, because we wanted to be fooled. Well, in the honor of Chassidut, in the honor of the Gdolim that started Chassidut, Baal Shem Tov, mainly in many of the Chassidim that followed him, Magid Mimezrich, the Rabbi Nachman Breslev, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Tanya, and many, many others that we'll mention tonight, this specific section of the Shul is going to answer a lot of people's questions, but is also going to create a lot of problems for those that don't want to hear the truth. And this section is going to, once and for all, tell people what did the Hasidim actually say about punishment. Now if you notice, today, unlike many other days where I usually bring you Gemarot, today I have a few different Sfarim. Today, I have the Tanya, which is the foundation of Chabad, and I have Lekutei Maharan. I have a few of these here with me. So I'm going to show you from the book what it says, so you don't think I just wrote it. But also, you can have the page numbers. Because it's important for people to know that if they're hearing anything contrary to what we're about to say, or anything contrary to what we've said, the problem is on their end. It's not here. If someone is telling you that there's no such thing as Gehenom, or that Gehenom is not a big deal, or that everyone is absolved from it or something, or that maybe the Gehenom was shut down, there's all types of stupidity that's being said in the public, then of course you're never going to make, if you believe them, you're never going to make Segle Dvarav, you're never going to make a fence around the fence, because you don't even think there's something to protect. They're leading you to believe that everything's okay. So, if they call themselves Hasidim, then they have to do what the original Hasidim did. So let's see what the Hasidim actually said. Hasidut started by the Baal Shem Tov. I mean, obviously there was Hasidut already at the time of the Gemara, but Hasidut, for what we know it today, or at least the image of it that we have today, was started by the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov himself did not refrain from talking about Gehenom in his Sfarim, in his Ma'amarim, and you'll find it in many places. Now, it's important to know that even if you would find somebody, some Chassid, that says something against it. For example, some Chassid says that, no, Gehenom is not this, but it's something else. Then you should know that there's certain rules to the Torah that I mentioned earlier. Number one is that no one from a later generation could ever go against the previous generation. So none of us ever have the permission to cancel out what Chazal says in the Gemara. It's not possible, it's not permissible, it's not valid. But obviously, many of the things that are said are being said by tzaddikim. So how could it be that a tzaddik said something that would confuse you into thinking that there's no Gehenom? It only means that you didn't understand what the tzaddik said. So you have to delve into it and understand word for word what they said by looking at much of their work, which also is part of the things that we did here, Baruch Hashem. To even explain the safeks and the doubts and the confusions and so on, to clear up once and for all, does Hasidut believe in Gehenom or no? Is there suffering? Is there a physical place of fire or snow? Is there what we said our whole shiur about Gehenom, where all the things happen, that we're not going to go into the details like we did already, because that you already can go to that other shiur. We're simply trying to verify, does Hasidut believe in a place of suffering or not? Does Hasidut believe that Hashem takes vengeance against the sinners or not? That's all we're trying to establish. The details, the gory details of what happens, they tear the people apart, break their eyes, break their egg, all those other things, I'll give you a little theatrics from time to time just to keep you awake, but I'm not going to go too much into it because we've done that already. Now, what do they believe? What does the Hasidim believe? How do we know what they believe? what they wrote. They wouldn't write it if they didn't believe it. So we're not going to go in one or two or three. We're going to go into a bunch, the greatest. Obviously, there's too many to go to all of them, but B'ezrat Hashem, we'll try to go into as many as possible to understand. What does Chabad actually believe? Not Chabad of today. Chabad meaning Chokhmah, Bina V'Dat. What the Tanya wrote in his beautiful, amazing book of Musar. What did he write here? I'm going to show you page numbers. I'm going to show you the page. I'm going to show you the words. What did Rabbi Nachman Mibreslev? What did he write? What did he say? Not what other people said in his name. What did he say? This is the only one. This is the only book he wrote. What did he say? What did he write? What did the Baal Shem Tov say? What did the Magid Mezrit say? What did the others say? That I'm going to mention them by name. Page numbers, book numbers. You're going to look for it yourself. Double check. Don't believe me. Double check. Why? Because you need to know this. Because you're going to hear again, after this shiur, somebody else say, no, there's no Gehenom. He's crazy. He's fanatic. He's not understanding it. Okay, so you have to check. Before Santa Claus comes to you with a beard and says he's a Jew, and he tells you, no, everything's okay, everybody gets presents, everybody gets Olam Haba, you have to know for sure that, no. Do not enter. You are a missionary. You're a missionary. Why? You're not saying what you're playing. You're pretending to be Chabad, but in reality you are a Christian. Chabad is Kodesh Kodashim. Breslev is Kodesh Kodashim. Baba is Kodesh, all Chasidut, Kodesh Kodashim. It's the people that pretend to be them that are the problem. If you look at the books of the Chachamim, Kodesh Kodashim. If you look at the pretenders, Shem Yachem, it's Erev Rav. Because they say the opposite. How could they say the opposite? Because, Rabotai, there's a rule in our Torah. Shlomo HaMelech said, Reshit Chokhmah Yirat Hashem. The beginning of wisdom, sphere of Hashem. You look at every one of these people, every one of these clowns that say there's no Gehenom, every one of these clowns that don't talk about punishment, every one of these clowns that say it's okay, everybody's Olam Haba, they don't talk about Chilul Shabbat, they don't talk about going against everything, they just talk about the neutral subjects. Every one of these clowns doesn't actually know much. They can't mention a source for their life. They're not well read at all. All they know is they can mention, but there's a letter from the Rabbi that something happened and show me a page, show me a number, show me a book, show me a sefer. Nothing. Why? There's no chokhmah. How could I say? Well, it's not a bold thing to say. It's not an arrogant thing to say they have no chokhmah. What? I'm the smartest in the world. I'm not even a chacham. But how do I know? Because if there's no yir'ah, there's no chokhmah. The Chacham Mikol Adam said it. Shlomo Melech said it. If you have no yir'ah, you definitely don't have chokhmah. Why? Because Reshit, chokhmah, yirat Hashem. The beginning of wisdom is yirat Hashem. If you're not afraid, petrified, terrified from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're not petrified, you're not sometimes crying because how scared you are, you definitely don't have any chokhmah. If you're not scared of Hashem, you have no chokhmah. If you're not scared of sinning, you have no chokhmah. It's not possible to have chokhmah without fear. We also see it from this week's parasha. We see that Am Yisrael, after they crossed the ocean, they saw the hand of Hashem. Vayar Yisrael et hayad hagdola asher asa Adonai b'Mitzrayim v'yiru ha'am et Adonai v'ya'aminu ba'Adonai b'Moshe avdo. As we've said many times in different lectures, is that after Am Yisrael saw the great hand of Hashem inflict on Egypt, and the people feared Hashem, and they had emunah in Hashem and in Moshe. Why? Why is this order of words? What is this saying to us? Once Am Yisrael acknowledged the hand of Hashem, that He's responsible for running the world, immediately they feared. That's what it says. They saw the hand of Hashem and they feared. It doesn't say they saw the hand of Hashem and they believed. They didn't believe. No. First they saw, then they feared, then they believed. Why? Because as soon as you understand who Hashem is to your capacity, immediately you're afraid. Because you realize He's responsible of the air that goes in and out of your lungs. He's responsible of the sound that you hear or don't hear. He's responsible of the taste on your tongue, the taste buds, the vision you see, the money you have or don't have, the wife you have or don't have, all the things that you need. Bottom line is, he could just simply turn off the button, just because. If you're not afraid of that, there's something wrong with you. That means you haven't seen the hand of Hashem. Because anyone that sees the hand of Hashem is immediately afraid. So anyone that tells you don't be afraid or fear is for fools, that means he's a fool. So now we have to learn from the Hasidim. What did they believe? The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says that when it comes to fearing Hashem, a person has to be afraid of specifically punishment. נמצא שהגדר והמעצור לעצור את הרשעים הוא אך ורק יראת העונש, שהוא כנגד הדמיון התאוותי בעשיית העבירה. Says that the only fence that will stop the wicked from sinning is only if they're afraid of the punishment. This is the only thing that would overcome their desire that's in their imagination. He's thinking, oh, I want her, I want him, I want this, I want that. All the things that he's thinking about himself, all that sin that he's imagining of how delicious the sin is, the only thing that will stop him from actually committing that sin is realizing, wait, yes, I want that, but then I don't want what comes with it. The fire, the torture, all that stuff, I don't want that. As soon as a person knows there's a consequence for his actions, that's a horrible consequence that you cannot even imagine, he doesn't want it anymore. It's not worth it. But then they continue, Besefer Arvei Nachal says, but this is not just for Reshaim. ולא רק לרשעים מועילה יראת העונש, אלא זוהי דרך הישרה העולה בתחילת, במסילת לבית אל. בספר ערבי נחל, פרשת בראשית, דרוש י"ג, it says that this fear of punishment is not just for Reshaim. This is the straight way to get on the road to the house of Hashem. צריך להרגיל את עצמו ביראת העונש עד שרואה בעצמו ששוב לא יחשל בחטא בשום אופן מחמת יראה זאת. He has to constantly focus on the fear of punishment. Punishment meaning the gruesome, horrible things that we talked about in the previous Gehenom Shiur. The worst things you can imagine. So bad that the Holocaust is a kindergarten next to it. Whatever you think the Holocaust was actually much worse than what you think, and Gehenom is 1,000,000 times worse than that. When a person realizes that could happen to me if I do this, immediately that heat that he has cools off like ice. Why? Am I out of my mind? It's not worth it. For what? 5 seconds of pleasure? 5 minutes of pleasure? 5 hours of pleasure? It's not worth it. It's not worth a lifetime of pleasure to get that kind of suffering. And he writes that he has to get himself used to this constantly on his mind until he gets to a point where he sees in himself that he literally has no desire to even return to this sin, because of how scared he is of this sin. And he continues בספר ערבי נחל דברים פרשת ניצבים דרוש ב' הנה ראוי לכל אדם להסית נגד עיניו תמיד עונשי הגיהנום ויתר העונשים. He has to literally have in his mind what the sin looks like. In his mind, he has to visualize, he has to use the creativity that Hashem gave him of what is the sin, what does the punishment look like. You want a visual? Okay, just imagine, you go to a butcher, they take a nice piece of cow, okay, they take the cow. The cow was alive at one point. Then they cut it up, they killed it, right? After that, they salt it, they skin it, all that stuff. They skin the cow, they salt the cow, they bring it to the butcher, butcher cuts pieces off, then after he takes the big pieces, takes small pieces, then some of them he makes them into shish kebabs, some of them he makes them into steaks, some of them he makes them into something else. Remember that? All that stuff, you saw it in the butcher, all of that. That's what happens to a person. But not just one time like the cow. Over and over and over and over and over again. You want another visual? Go to the butcher. Go to the butcher, say, can you show me what happens with this cow? That's what they're saying to you, you need to have in your mind. Why? That's how scared we're supposed to be, because this, what I'm describing to you, is the best case scenario. It gets much worse. If a person sins and doesn't do tshuva. If he does tshuva, ishtabach shemo. Ishtabach shemo, he does tshuva, he walks in Gan Eden with Hashem Yitbarach himself. He doesn't do tshuva. Wa aleko. בספר שפתי צדיקים במדבר, פרשת שלח. איך יכולים לבוא ליראת השם הטהורה המבואר בכל הספרים הקדושים? He says, how do we get to יראת השם? The pure one, it's written in all of the holy books, that in the beginning ירגיל אדם את עצמו ביראת הפשוטה שהיא יראת העונש. In the beginning a person get himself used to constantly thinking about fear of punishment. אינו שייתן על ליבו על דברים המפחידים אותו. What does he have to think about? Think about the things that scare you the most. That's the punishment. What are you scared of? You're scared of some bug. You're scared of some embarrassment. You're scared of homelessness. Whatever you're scared of, think of that magnified by 1,000,000. That's what a person is supposed to think about. That's what he writes here. Chasidim. יש לי להתערה לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא חי וקיים לעד ובידו נפש כל חי ורוח כל בשר, איש ואין מידו מציל. וגם אין מקום להסתר מפניו, כמו שכתוב, אם יסתר איש במסתרים ואני לא אראנו. He says here, you have to constantly visualize these things because you're dealing with a melech malchei hamlachim, the king of all kings, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that everything is in his hand and nothing can escape it. As the prophet Jeremiah says in chapter 23, verse 24, is there such a thing that someone can conceal themselves and then I not see them? Hashem says. Somebody can hide from me. That's what a person needs to constantly think in their mind. You're making a sin, it's in a private room, it's in a hotel, it's in your house, it's in your business, it's in your bank, it's in an insurance policy, it's whatever. Hashem sees it. Everything he sees. בספר סידורו של שבת, חלק א' שורש ב' ענף ב'. He writes, אין מחמת יראת העונש ומפחד תמיד, ומפחד תמיד שלא ייפול ברעה, אין בייסורי העולם הזה ואין בייסורי גיהנום. He says a person needs to have constant fear of the punishment and to be in fear at all times not to fall to evil because of the punishment that would happen and the suffering that would happen in this world and in Gehinnom. The Hasidim was saying that so real with even their generation 300-400 years ago, 200 years ago, that they write the following. בספר ערבי נחל, again, במדבר, חוקת דרוש, במדבר, דרוש ג', he says the following. משאלת ליבו, this is like the wishful thinking. He says, I wish. What does he wish? מי ייתן והיה הפחות והגרוע שבעם השם, תהיה יראת העונש, ואהבת השכר על ליבו. בכל רגע לא ישכח דבר, זה מאיתו. אזי לא יעבור עבירה בשום פעם ויחזיק במצוות השם. He says, how great it would be, in so many words, how great it would be that the least of the nation of Hashem would simply be afraid of punishment and only fulfill the mitzvot because they want a reward. You're not supposed to fulfill a mitzvah because you want a reward. And you're not supposed to live only because you're afraid. You're supposed to serve Hashem because you love Hashem, not afraid of Him only. And you're supposed to do the mitzvot because it's a way to serve Hashem, not because you want money, not because you want stuff. But He says, no. Go to the least, the minimum. You're only not making sins because you're afraid to death, and you're only making mitzvot because you want to get paid. He says, alvai, this happens. That people do this. Just this, it's an alvai, 300 years ago. I wish this would happen. That people would simply just do this. Why? Because they would never make a sin, and they would just do mitzvot. Because they would stick to Hashem. בספר מנחם ציון, דרשת שבת הגדול, he says the following: אי אפשר לבוא ולהגיע למדרגת תשובה אלא טרם היות על פניו יראת העונש. Word for word, it is impossible to get to the point of doing tshuva without fear of punishment. This is one of the greatest Hasidim that ever lived. He writes, literally, you want to do tshuva? It is impossible to do tshuva without being afraid of being punished in Genom. No tshuva. No, I'm doing tshuva because I love Hashem. You're living an illusion. You're probably on ecstasy or acid. You're not doing tshuva. Why? It's impossible to do tshuva without being afraid of Hashem. If you're not afraid of Hashem, that means you don't know Hashem. You think He's like you. You think He changes His mind. You think He's just going to let things go. You think He's just such and such. You haven't done tshuva yet. You don't even feel bad for the sins you've made. You probably don't even know what sins you're making. בספר מאור ושמש ויקרא רמזים לשביעי של פסח, he writes, צריך לשים על הלב יראת העונש אשר הוא יתברך נוקם מעוברי רצונו. A person needs to constantly think, to have on his heart fear of punishment, constantly have in his heart this fear, this trepidation in his heart, because of his knowledge that Hashem Yitbarach takes revenge against people that don't follow what He says. So far I've said many of the things that I've said in other shurim before this, but we'll get to some new stuff soon. I figured that if somebody only watches this one, might as well put all of it instead of just part here, part there. בספר מאור ושמש בראשית, פרשת תולדות. It says, יבוא לידי גאווה ולידי שחוק והוללות, על כן צריך לעבוד מתחילה ביראה, ולכבוש היצרה ביראה. It says, a person will get to joy and have different things that make him laugh and proud, but because of this he needs to constantly have fear of punishment in his heart because of the sin that these things can lead to. But Rabbi Tzadok Milobelin, Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen Milobelin writes בספר צדקת הצדיק, אות נ"ז, 57, שעוגמת נפש יש לאדם על העבירות שעשה מהם, ממי יסורי גיהנום על אותה עבירה, that the suffering that a person has over the sins that he's made and over his fear that he has of Gehenom, this will help his tshuva. שמי שזוכה מן השמיים מזכירים לו בכל העבירות שעשה ומתמרמר עליהם עד שסובל ששיעור גיהנום מגיע לו על זה בעולם הזה. It says a person that has this suffering, the עוגמת נפש, about the sins that he's made in the past. He made sins, so he's starting to do tshuva. But he remembers his sins. He used to do this, he used to do that, he used to do all these different things. So now he's sad about it. Then he's watching this shiur, and he realizes that if he doesn't do tshuva for these sins, Hashem Erachem, what's going to happen to him? He's going to become a little steak on constant fire. So now, not only does he feel sad about his sins before the shiur, he feels terrible now because of what's going to happen to him if he doesn't succeed in his tshuva. He says this person is zocheh, is praiseworthy. Why? That's a reward, what he has right now. Because from Shamayim, from heaven, they're reminding him of all of the sins that he's had in the past, so he could suffer because of it in this world instead of the next. The actual crying that a person has and the suffering that a person has in this world because if he thinks of all of his past is actually a reward from Shamayim, so you feel bad for it here, and that takes away from Gehinom over there. He uses the Gemara, Masechet Brachot, page 12b, as one of the sources. So now we're going to go to Torah, more specific, more precise, like a missile attack of one after another, one chacham after another, instead of all over the place. First and foremost, we'll start with the beginning, the Baal Shem Tov himself. Rabbi Israel ben Rabbi Eliezer was born in 1695 in the area of Ukraine and Romania. He had many students under him, and some of the great students that publicized his Torah, his Chassidut, were names like the Magid Mezrich, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef Mipolania, and other names that we're going to mention. And each one of these giants, they had Talmidim, and they had Talmidim, and they had Talmidim, and so on and so forth, all the way to the point where now it originally started with the Baal Shem Tov, but now it's broken off into many parts of Chassidut. You have Chabad, you have Bobov, you have Satmer, you have many different types of Chassidut, but all of them start there. So Besefer Baal Shem Tov, Ala Torah, Parashat Vayekel. The Baal Shem Tov says, where it's written, Lo tevaru esh bekol moshvotechem biyom HaShabbat, in the book of Exodus, chapter 35, verse number 3, says, don't light fire on Shabbat. He says in the Gemara, in Masechet Shabbat, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, he's using this as why you're allowed to move the candle if there's no fire, but if there's fire, you're not allowed to move it. So the Baal Shem Tov says, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu le'adam, Nercha biyadi, v'neri biyadcha. Nercha biyadi שנאמר, נר השם נשמת אדם. נרי בידך לעלות נר תמיד, אלא אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, אם הארת נרי, הריני מאיר נרך. So here the Baal Shem Tov says, the neshama of a person, we have a makor in the Torah, in Mishle, chapter 20, verse 27, that the soul of a person is also called a ner, a candle. A candle. Ner is a candle. But also, what's other things? What Hashem is saying to the person, it says, "Your candle is in my hand. My candle is in your hand." What is this candle? The Baal Shem Tov says from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that candle is, you have my Shabbat in your hand. I have your soul in my hand. You have my Shabbat in your hand. If you light my candle, I'll light your candle. And from there, the Baal Shem Tov asks the question, why? Why is Hashem specifically referring to Shabbat and not to just a weekday? Why is he saying, oh, I hold your hand every day? Why is he referring, you have my Shabbat, not my Wednesday, not my Yom Revi'i? Why? אומר רבי שמעון בר יוחאי, he says, כל הנרות מטלטלין חוץ מנר הדולק בשבת, שמחלל שבת שדולק נשמתו בגיהנום, גם כן בשבת מידה כנגד מידה. ודברי פי חכם כן. The Baal Shem Tov says in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he says the reason why we're mentioning Shabbat here is because just like a person is not allowed to letaltel, to carry the candle when it has fire on Shabbat, he's not allowed to move the candle when it has fire. From here we learn that Hashem says, I have your candle in my hand. You're my candle, your neshama, I have it in my hand. If you light my fire, you have my candle, you have my Shabbat. You violate mine, I violate yours. Meaning that just like the fire that's burned in this candle, I'm going to burn you in Gehenom even on Shabbat. Because on Shabbat I shut off the Gehenom. I shut off the fire in Gehenom. But when you light fire on Shabbat, you're lighting your own fire. I'm going to burn you even on Shabbat. No break on Shabbat. Why? You didn't take a break. You light fire on Shabbat. You light my candle on Shabbat. I'm going to light your candle on Shabbat. As it says, El Nekamot Hashem, El Nekamot Ophia. The God of vengeance is Hashem. The God of vengeance arrived. Now we're going to move on to some of the giants, students of the Baal Shem Tov. For the sake of time, we'll try to go a little faster. Rabbi Yaakov Yosef HaKohen, he was one of the Gdolei Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, along with the Rabbi Mezrich, the Magid Mezrich. He writes, בספר בן פורת יוסף, ונודע מה שאמרו חכמי המוסר, פעם אחת היה היצר הרע חבוש בבית הייסורים על ידי תפילת אנשי כנסת הגדולה. Gemara Masechet Yoma says that at one point the Yetzer Hara was like a hostage. The Anshe Knesset Agdola, the sages, did a special tefillah, and they enclosed the Yetzer Hara, the Satan, put him in jail. They had that much power of Kedusha. The moment they contained him, the fire of Gehenom went out. The fire in Gehenom was put out. ואז נכבה אש של גיהנום גם כן. But then he broke out of it, חזר היצר הרע למקומו, חזר אש לגיהנום למקומו. As soon as the יצר הרע goes freed, went back to his place, the fire of Gehenom went back to its place. כי על ידי אש של היצר הרע שבוער ברשעים, לעשות רע, גורם לאש של גיהנום שילהב גם כן. Just like by the hand of the fire of the Yetzer Hara, he gets his fire from the sins of the Reshaim. And that fire lights the fire of Gehenom that burns those same Reshaim that he gets it from. Then he continues in a different place. In Tzfanat Panecha, שמות פרשת תרומה, רצונו לומר שמי שמדליק בשבת כל הלילה עד הבוקר ומחלל שבת, אז אש המזבח תוקד בו, גם כן אף בשבת. ואם תאמר, מאין יהיו עצים לגיהנום, מפרש מי שהיו סוסיו ומותר. Okay, I'll just simply translate it. He says that just like a person that violates Shabbat, he's going to be burned on Shabbat. But if you ask, where are they going to get all the trees to make this extra fire on Shabbat to burn him? He says, we learned that if he used his susav, his horses, and his carriages to violate Shabbat, then measure for measure, midah keneged midah, mevidim lo etzim legehenom gan ken. Hashem will use those same horses, those same carriages, those same trucks, those same cars, to go carry the wood, so it burns him in Gehenom with those same things. That's actually also, we learn Rabbi Akiva, he saw somebody running around completely in smoke, carrying wood. He said, who are you? He says, I'm gathering wood. For what? He goes to make fire. What fire for? To burn myself in Gehenom. ערבי נחל דברים, פרשת ניצבים דרוש ב'. הנה כי כן משפטי הרשעים קודם בעם לגיהנום, מרים וקשים 1000 פעמים יותר מגיהנום, והוא בידי האכזרים וההשגחה שרה מעליו שם. וסובל כך זמן ארוך עד הגיע הזמן שיכנס לגיהנום. ושם יצא משפטו כמה זמן יהיה בגיהנום. He says certain people that have, certain wicked people, they have first a trial, but some of these people have punishment that's even worse than Gehinom. They go to Kafakela, where over there the suffering is much, much worse. And it's for a very long time, until they finally finish their sentence, and then they finally tell them after they complete their sentence, 1,000 years in Kafakela, 5,000 years in Kafakela, 5 million in Kafakela of getting hammered 24 hours a day, getting beat up constantly. After that, he arrives at the trial again. Okay, now we'll tell you what your sentence is in Gehinom. These Hasidim are fanatics, no? Kodesh Kodeshim is what these people are. That's why they were Hasidim. That's why they were Hasidim. They were Hasidim because not only were they were so afraid of Gehinom, they did extra. Okay, now we're going to go into Torat Breslev. We're going to finish with Torat Chabad, Bezrat Hashem, but we're going to start off with Torat Breslev. Help our Breslev brothers stop dancing in the street and start doing tshuva, Bezrat Hashem. Many of them are tzaddikim, that they do good and they learn Torah, like the Rabbi Nachman Breslev says, but many of them are confused and they think that all they need to do is just grow payas and dance and laugh. And they need to wake up because that's not what Rabbi Nachman Breslev said. So Rabbi Nachman Breslev said in Likutei Maharan, Torah Yud Od Tet. Likutei Maharan in a Torah 10, Od Tet, 10 part 9. Lesson 10, part 9. And I'll just read in English to save the time. First he mentions a Gemara from Baba Batra, page 74a. He says, this is the meaning of what Rabbi Bar Chana said. A merchant told me, come and I will show you those swallowed by the earth with Korach. So he mentions the whole Maaseh with Korach. He says, let me show you where this is. So I went along and I saw 2 cracks from which smoke was emerging. They went to the middle of the desert. They saw there was a crack in the ground. There was 2 cracks in the ground. There was smoke coming out of it. He goes, let me show you. He took a piece of wool, soaked it in water, put it on the tip of a spear, and then inserted it in the crack of the ground, inserted it in the crack, and then he pulled it back, removed it, and it was completely scorched, like lava was on it. He told me, listen to what's here. You hear it? Listen to what he says. You heard? Yeah. What are they saying? He says, they're saying, Moshe is emet, Torato is emet, and we are liars. He goes, exactly. You know what that is? That's Korach. That's Korach ve'adato. This is their spot. This is their spot. That every Chodesh, every month, we hear this. Once a month. Why? It says this is part of Korach's tshuva in Gehinom. But even this tshuva in Gehinom is not helping him. He says this repentance comes down to all creatures, all people that go to Gehinom. This is part of their Gehinom. It happens in the new moon, the Rosh Chodesh, which is why Korach and his followers inevitably have some regret on every Rosh Chodesh. Why? Because this repentance, this tshuva that they're doing now in Gehinom, it doesn't help them. For the essence of repentance, tshuva, is only available in this world, he tells them. Whoever toils on the day before Shabbat will have what to eat on Shabbat. Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Nachman Breslev says, you see what Korach is dealing with right now, all the screaming of the thing that the Gemara says, what is it here to teach us? Is to teach us that he's trying to do tshuva now in Gehinom. He can't do it. Because tshuva is only available now. He's being burned. And all the other Reshaim, same thing, every Rosh Chodesh, they're all suffering even extra because it's that once a month that they actually have the ability to try to do something about it. Try to do tshuva, but they can't. It's part of the punishment. Shem Menachem. He says, Rabbi Nachman Breslev continues. He says, Gehinom brings them back here. The Gehinom is a living thing. The Gehinom brings them back to this place, for they're not absolved. But nevertheless, Gehinom in effect on a new moon is not the same as in other days. Because Gehinom in effect on a new moon is only regret. Regretting, confessing, being embarrassed. This is the embarrassment that people talk about. This is another form of it. You know, people say, oh no, this Gehinom is only embarrassment. He says, yeah, this is the embarrassment. They bring him once a month to the place of Korach, and they realize, oh, what I did to myself, look how I'm being burned. And they're embarrassed because everybody sees that they're really a Rasha. They're exposed in front of everyone. And once a month they come to this place, Hashem Yerachem, in order to confess their sins. But it doesn't help them. Does not help them. That's Rabbi Nachman Breslev, one part. We continue in Likutei Maharan, Torat Chaf Bet Ot Yud Aleph. In lesson 22, part 11. It says if a person is prideful, Hashem humbles him. As the verse says, if they are bound in chains in Gemara Masechet Megillah 13b. And it continues, he says later on, he says, they're paid, they're answered, how does he humble them? They let him pay tamrei, as appropriate for damaging faith. What is this symbolizing? Rabbi Nachman Breslev gives a commentary on this to save some time. And he says, he must pay, this person that had pride, he must pay a 60th. What does this 60th represent? It alludes to Gehinom, since the entire world is only a 60th of hell. A 60th of Gehinom. This is because the prideful person goes to Gehinom for punishments for all other things were exchanged by Avraham Avinu, into subjugation to foreign powers. But the punishment for Gava, for violating the breed, for violating the, doing all of the things that violate Kedusha, remained in Gehinom. So even Avraham Avinu can't take somebody out of Gehinom if he violates specific things like this, which is Gava and the things that have to do with Arayot. Thus, someone who damaged the holy audacity, the holy Kedusha, through his Gava, through his actions, he is on a realm of evil, and he must pay a 60th, which means 60th is referring as another name for Gehinom. This, again, Rabbi Nachman Breslev HaKadosh talks about Gehinom. I wish it would be a chidush, but it really isn't. It's Rabbi Nachman. It's been available for a long time. It's just that people don't read. In Likutei Maharan, Taninya, which is part 2 of Likutei Maharan, Torah Tzadik. Rabbi Nachman Breslev reminds us of a minhag that they used to have in Yerushalayim. He says, Shebirat kli ches b'sha'at ha-shiduch. So he says that in the time of the shiduch, when they would go to get married, they would take like a piece of clay, and they would break it in Yerushalayim. Where? In a place that they believed is Gehinom, is one of the gates of Gehinom. There's 3 places, 3 entrances to Gehinom in this world. One is in Yerushalayim, one is in the ocean, and one is in the desert. So the Chachamim, they would go to a certain place in Yerushalayim and they would break this thing. Where? At the gate of Gehinom. Why? This is to remind the Chatan. Da v'schor ki yesh Gehinom. Remember and know, there is a Gehinom. V'lo tiyeh nimshach achar ta'avatecha. And don't go after your desires. You're a married man now. V'tikadesh atzmecha keraui. Make yourself holy like you're supposed to. Ki zachor tiskor sheyesh gehenom. Because remember and don't forget that there is a gehenom, meaning you will pay a punishment if you cheat on her, if you yell at her, if you do things that are against the marriage, if you violate the ketubah, all the things. Instead of saying siman tov, mazal tov, and siman tov, what does it say? Hey, buddy, you're about to get married? Welcome to the club. There's a gehenom. There's a gehenom. You best be. You sign the ketubah. It means something. It's not just a signature to put on your wall. All this they give him as through the hint of breaking this pot. Likutei Maharan Taninya Torat Kuf Yutet. Also says that in this world, the suffering that people have is like something that you'd have in Gehenom in some cases, where he's trying to give us a visual that this Gehenom is not exactly a place that you want to go to. It's not like some of these, these Smurf rabbis visualize. He's telling us details that the suffering of Gehenom is not suffering that anyone would want on themselves. Ad Kan, we're going to finish with Torat Breslev. Now we're going to go into the main event. Torat Chabad. Torat Chabad, Rabbi Shneur Zalman ben Rabbi Baruch, the Baal Tanya, was born in 1745, about 300 years ago, in Luzna, in Russia. But in 1804, he moved to Liadi. That's why he's known until today as the Rami Liadi. That was the city that this is where he founded and started Hasidut Chabad. Chabad stands for Chokhmah, Bina, V'Dat. Chokhmah means wisdom. Bina, delve between one thing and another. And the other one is, Dat is to know right and wrong. And this Tanya is the foundation of Chabad. You cannot be a Chabadnik without reading the Tanya, no different than how you read the Tanakh. In fact, today, unfortunately, people are more likely to read the Tanya than they are to read the Tanakh. So how come they don't believe in Gehenom, even though it's all over this book? Because they don't read the whole thing, or they skip through it. If you read it, and you don't have Yirat Shamayim, that means you don't know how to read. You didn't understand a single word. And you don't have to go into the small print at the end or anything like that. This is literally right in the beginning. I'm just going to go over a few small things. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. Just a few small things. We start off right in the beginning. Chapter 8. Chapter 8, Perek Chet. In one paragraph, the Baal Tanya mentions Chibut HaKever, Kaf HaKela, Gehenom, laziness, and Gehenom again. One tiny little paragraph. I'll read it in English just to save the time. That is why the body must undergo the purgatory of the grave, the suffering that a person endures in the grave. Because this purgatory is where the soul is cleansed of stains that are acquired during a lifetime from the sins. In order to cleanse and purify it of the uncleanliness which it has received from the enjoyment of mundane things and pleasures, which are derived from the uncleanliness of Klipat Noga and Jewish demons. So there are different types of Shedim. Some of them are called Yehudin. Yehudin are specifically Jewish demons. You read it in the Gemara in a few places. So, when a person enjoys the materialism of this world more than he's supposed to, instead of eating just enough, he eats enough for 3 people. Instead of working just to make a living, he works to make a living for 10 generations. He misses Shiurei Torah and so on. We're not even talking about he violates Shabbat here. Talking about he's just enjoying the world a little too much. He says this person will have chibut hakever, will have a lot of suffering in the grave. Only one who has derived no enjoyment from this world all of his life, as was the case from our saintly master, the Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he was spared of this. Rabbi HaKadosh didn't enjoy this world. Even though he was a multi-millionaire, he didn't enjoy the millionaires. He did, Mamash was a slave of Hashem. But anybody else that has enjoyment from this world will have some type of suffering in the grave. Obviously, the more they focus on materialism, the more difficult that first part will be. And then he continues, as for innocent, idle chatter. He goes into specific things. He goes, you just decided to talk about baseball. You know what? Talk about politics. What do you think about the wall? What do you think about the government being shut down? What do you think of the stock market? And you're not really in the business of the stock market. You just want to know what he thinks about the stock market. Idle chatter. Such as in the case of an ignorant who cannot study. He must undergo a cleansing of his soul to get rid of the uncleanness of this klipa, through it being rolled in kafa kela. You want to socialize for no reason? You want to just talk about chit-chat and chit-chat and chit-chat about the stock market, about Donald Trump, about his hair, whether it's real or it's not, all that stuff, you want to do that stuff? Okay, you'll have a nice, long sentence in kafa kela. Enjoy. You get a nice tour from one end of the universe to the other. Shh. Well, yeah, it gives the person plenty of time to continue the conversation about nothing. Maybe his friend is also flying with them. Where does he get it from? Where do you think he just came out of himself? No, it says in the Zohar, Parashat Beshalach, page 59. But what about if it's not just waste of time talking? What if it's Lashon Hara? Like these clowns like to say about me or about other Jews. What about that? What about it's Lashon Hara? What about if it's Rechilut? What about that? Let's see what the Baal Tanya, the foundation of Chabad, what does he say? But in regards to forbidden speech, such as scoffing and slander and the like, which stem from the three completely unclean klipot, the kafa kela alone is not enough for them to cleanse and remove the uncleanliness of the soul. They must go to Gehenom. The Baal Tanya, foundation of Chabad, literally says Gehenom, not a place like or maybe or embarrassment. No. The suffering of the other one. If you didn't think it was suffering, when it was Gehenom, because embarrassment, then he told you about kafa kela. If you didn't think that was suffering, they told you about chibut hakever. Nobody thinks that chibut hakever is fun. So too, he who is eligible to learn Torah, to engage in Torah, but decides to occupy himself instead in frivolous things. Kafa kela itself is not enough for him. He must cleanse his soul with severe penalties that are meted out for bitul Torah, in particular, apart from the general retribution for the neglect of a positive commandment. So he must go to the purgatory of snow. It's not just a fire. There's two Gehenoms. There's the Gehenom of fire, and then the Baal Tanya says, no, it's not just fire. Relax, there's also snow for you. There's a Gehenom of snow. And we'll explain a little bit later who goes to this Gehenom of snow. Aside from our friend over here. Moreover, the uncleanliness of the science of the nations is greater than the profane speech. Person that likes to study all types of nonsense on the internet instead of learning Torah, he says for such a person is, by learning all of this nonsense, he's defiling his midot, he's ruining his character traits, which emanate from the element of the Holy Ruach, within his divine soul, and he's contaminating this ruach with klipat noga, which is contained in profane speech, which is derived from the element of the evil ruach of this klipa. So literally, right in the beginning, we haven't even touched the Tanya. We're already talking about Chibuta Kevel, which to me is the scariest. Then you talk about Kafa Kela. You're going to have a heart attack by the time you realize what it is actually Kafa Kela, what they do there. Genom Shem Yirachem Aleinu. And then he goes back, for what? What do you do for this? He says, what if you're lazy? What if a person's lazy? He doesn't feel like doing much. He goes, oh, he's lazy? Oh, he goes to Genom. Why? Michamat Atzlut. Michamat Atzlut begenom shel shelek shemevuar. The person that's lazy, oh, he has a place in Genom. Where? In the snow one. He tells you also where he goes. Not just you go to Genom. No, you have a room in the snow section. With no skis, though. No skis. So, here the Baal Tanya already scared us to death right from the beginning. Now, later on, the Baal Tanya does what almost no Chabadnik does today. What does he do? He talks about Chilul Shabbat. In chapter 46, the end of chapter 46, it says, "Ubazeh yuvan chomer onesh isur melacha b'shabbatot v'chametz b'pesach." It says, thereby it will be understood the severity of the punishment for transgressing prohibition of working on Shabbat, doing a melacha, any type of melacha, lighting fire, or carrying, and so on and so forth, or eating chametz on Pesach. For even in the soul of the uncultured, meaning even if somebody who's am haaretz doesn't know anything, because today the guy that was wasted an hour and a half of my time, the rabbi, the so-called rabbi from 2 days ago, I told you I had a conversation with. He told me, no, but people don't know. So if you read your own book, Mr. Chabad, if you would have read your own book, the Baal Tanya talks about it. What if they don't know? He says, even the uncultured, the completely illiterate person shines in the light of the sanctity of Shabbat or festival. Hence, he faces capital punishment by karet, or stoning for profanation of the sanctity. Even if the person doesn't know any Torah, he doesn't know anything, violate Shabbat, he gets punished. It's not Yaron Reuven now. Now you have a problem, you go back to the Baal Tanya. Because I told him sources from the Torah, from the Chumash, that wasn't good enough. So I told him sources from the Gemara, that's not good enough. The Zohar, that's not good enough. The Sifrei Tzadikim, that's not good enough. Now you have the Tanya itself. So now if you don't believe it, you can no longer call yourself a Chabad. Can't say that, no, he doesn't know much, so therefore he's allowed to violate Shabbat. He's allowed to drive to Beit Knesset on Shabbat. Because he's okay, he doesn't know much. He knows to go to Beit Knesset, he knows there is a Beit Knesset, he already knows more than this person that the Baal Tanya says gets karet. If a person knows to go to Beit Knesset, and knows how to read Tefillah, knows how to read a Siddur, he already knows more than the person that the Baal Tanya is talking about that gets the worst punishment in the Torah. Gets karet. Because he's talking about a completely illiterate person. An uncultured person. He violates Shabbat, he gets karet. Baal Tanya is giving us a chidush that apparently many Chabadniks today do not know or do not teach, or both. You continue into the Tanya, into Igeret HaTshuvah. The first few things that I mentioned was in Likutei Amarim. Now we're moving forward in the Tanya to Igeret HaTshuvah. Chapter 12. He says the reason for happiness in the afflictions of the body, when a person has suffering. The Baal Tanya says when a person has suffering in this world, he has backaches, earaches, throat aches, this ache, that ache. He's suffering constantly. You should be happy about it. Why? The reason why for the happiness of the afflictions of the body is that they're great and potent favor for the sinning soul to cleanse in this world and to redeem itself from purification in the next. This is particularly true to our generation, when it is not possible to fast in accordance with the prescription in the penances of the Arizal. So he's saying about his own generation, 300 years ago. He says, we can't fast like the Arizal says. We can't do all the things for tshuva like the Arizal says. So if you get suffering, it's the best case scenario. Why? It's going to clean your soul. Why? What do I need to clean the soul from? It's imperative for cleansing of the soul to rescue it from the cleansing of Gehenom. Why do you need cleansing in Gehenom if Gehenom is only a place of embarrassing you, making fun of you? Obviously it's not. As the Nachmanides, after the Ramban said in his introduction to the commentary on Sefer Job, he writes that even the suffering of Job himself, if a person had it for 70 years, not just for 1 year like Job had it, you have the suffering of Job for 70 years, is absolutely no comparison whatsoever to the suffering that the soul will have even for a brief moment in Gehenom. Now anyone that wants to know the details of what Job has, very easy. It's in the Tanakh. Open the book of Job. Spend a couple of hours, you'll understand what it means to suffer. And then, after you understand what it means to suffer, when there's worms coming out of the body of Job, and he loses 10 kids, they all die in the same day, and he loses billions of dollars, becomes homeless, and all of his friends become his enemies, all the worst of the worst that could possibly happen to a person happened to him. The Ramban says, and the Baal HaTanya says, follows, and confirms, that all of that, not for 1 year, but for an entire lifetime, is not even a moment of suffering of Gehenom. Does that sound like embarrassing to anybody? It's embarrassing to actually have to justify this. But that's the reality. For the physical fire of Gehenom, of here, is only 1/60th of the fire, the lowest fire of Gehenom, as he says. It is only that the world is built by kindness, and through mild suffering in this world, one is saved from severe judgments in the coming world. He said it's Chasdei Hashem, it's the kindness of Hashem to give us suffering in this world, because it saves us from the real suffering in the next world. This, again, is the Baal HaTanya. There are many other places in chapter 45, I believe, 47, many other places, but I think you get the point that Chabad does not believe in no Gehenom. Now, if somebody says, no, but maybe it changed later on with other Hasidim that came later on, because obviously people are a little bit stumim. They have a little problem in their brain, so we'll mention a few others briefly. Rav Tzvi Elimelech Shapira Midinov, he also was born in 1785. בתיקוני הזוהר, דף פ"ה, עמוד א', it says on the pasuk, לא תבערו אש בכל מושבותיכם ביום השבת, that do not light fire on Shabbat. He gives a commentary on it. What's the commentary? He says, כל מי שכועס הוא כמו שהדליק אש הגיהנום. Says that anyone, the Zohar says that anyone that gets angry, he's like lighting the fire of Gehenom. When is he getting? So why does it say? Why is it almost also only mentioned it by Shabbat? Yes, why is it Shabbat? He says in the weekday the fire of Gehenom is already lit. But by Shabbat, Hashem shuts off the fire of Gehenom. So when a person gets angry, he himself lights the fire of Gehenom and gets burned in it himself. Why? You got angry on Shabbat, you lit fire on Shabbat. Oh, okay, so we'll light you up back on Shabbat when you get to the next section of life. Rabbi Shlomo ben Rabbi Dov Tzvi Cohen Rabinovich, He says in a the whole point of all of this, Ki Hashem Elokecha Esh Ochlai Uel Kana. He says there's a pasuk in the Torah in Sefer Dvarim, Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verse 24, that Hashem is a fire. He's a fire. He's a consuming fire, and He's a jealous God. Why does it say that? It says, just like Moshe Rabbeinu says, and also in Exodus 20, verse 17. So don't. The reason why Hashem is scaring you is so you don't make sins. Is that after so he says that after a person understands all the things that really happen in Gehenom, he's simply not going to want to sin. That's the point. It's not that anyone wants anybody to go to Gehenom, chas v'shalom. Is that you need to know what you're dealing with in order to avoid it, like the plague that killed 100 million people. But then Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen Rabinovitz, who was born in 1823, he says in Pri Tzadik, he writes the following, Parashat Achrei Ot Vav, Achrei Ot Vav. He says there's two types of Gehenom. יש שני מיני גיהנום. גיהנום של אש, נגד השלוש קליפות הקנאה והתאווה והכבוד שכולם נקראו אש, וגיהנום של שלג, נגד קליפת עמלק. He says there's two types of Gehenom. There's a Gehenom of fire, which is against the jealousy, the desires, the honor that it's based off of. That's what lights it. But then there's the Gehenom of the snow. What's the snow? What is it for? This is against Amalek specifically. What's Midat Amalek? Those people that cool off the crowd. They tell them there's no Gehenom. They tell them that everybody's a tzaddik. They tell them everything's okay. Oh, you have a special place in Gehenom. It's not even fire. It's the snow section. All to yourself. All to yourself. Midah keneged midah. Just like the ice is cold, the Amalek cools off the crowd. Same exact thing. Then he says even further, Takanat Shavin Amud Kuf Pei Gimel says that part of the fire that consumes the person is the fire of his own soul. Because the soul itself is fire, and his own soul burns itself. Shem Menachem. We'll speed up to the rest. Besefer Makom Mayim Chaim. A person that thinks about evil things, about immodest things, and so much, and so on and so forth. He must think about all of the fire that's in Gehenom. צריך לעמוד לפניו יראת עונש כי על כל חימום מחשבות רעות ומכל שכן יותר ירד הרבה מדרגות ויטעום 1000 פעם טמא מיתה חוץ מעונשי גיהנום. He says that just for thinking all of these things, having a dirty mind, he's going to end up getting suffer that's 1,000 times worse than the pleasure that he got, and that's even before Gehenom. And tzarot rabot, a lot of disasters will surround him. But if he has, שעל ידי יראת עונש ידע שהוא ממש אש של גיהנום, ידחה ויהרוג אותה מחשבה רעה. But if he knows the truth about the suffering that you get in Gehenom, he himself will destroy this thought. As it says, כי הבא להורגך, השכם להורגו. Just as it says, something that comes to kill you, you kill it first. This thought that you have about someone that's not your wife, something that doesn't belong to you, all these things that are against Hashem, this thought is trying to kill you. The Yetzer Hara is trying to kill you, kill it first. Why? How? By knowing about the punishment. So, another part of the busha, by the way, that Chazal explain here, is that part of the tzal and the busha that people get, the embarrassment that people get, is part of the Gehenom, is that Rabbi Nachman Breslev actually says this, that they take him to Gan Eden, They take the Reshayim to Gan Eden to go see all the tzaddikim and see what they could have gotten. And this causes them much, much more suffering than they had before even. The other thing is that the other reason why it causes them a lot of embarrassment is because the people that are in Gan Eden, that see them, or even the people in Gehenom that see them in Gehenom, they see them for who they really are. They see why they're in Gehenom. It's like, oh, wow, in the real world you were a rabbi, you wrote like 10 books, you were famous, you did all these things, but in reality you were a nochel, you were a criminal, you were looking at women the whole time, you were stealing money, you were lying to people, you were telling people there's no Gehenom. So that's who you really are. We thought you were a tzaddik, we had your picture on the wall, but in reality you're a nochel, you're a rasha. This embarrassment causes them suffering that is in the same level as the fire itself. As the fire itself, because mamash, everybody sees them for what they are, especially the people that they fooled. So they go send them to Gan Eden, they make them see that, they make the other people see them for who they really are. But this is in addition to the fire and the snow and the Shem Yachem and all of the other horrible, horrible things. So up to here, I think you get the point that if you want to be a part of Chabad, if you want to be a part of Breslev, if you want to be a part of any type of Chassidut, if you want to be a part of Judaism, you must believe in Schar ve'onish. You must believe in reward and punishment. Reward means Gan Eden, punishment means Gehenom. Reward does not mean you get a car, you get a house. Reward does not mean you get money. Reward means Olam Haba, that's good. Punishment doesn't mean you broke a fingernail, you get a little cold. No, that's not enough. There's Gehenom. Gehenom is a horrible, horrible, terrible place that is beyond our imagination, but it exists, it is physical, and unfortunately there's a section of it that will never end. So our Mishnah in Avot says a person that wants this Keter Torah, wants this crown of Torah, the minimum of minimum that he has to do is put a protective fence. Put a protective fence. Part of our protective fence is not to go to certain places. Part of our protective fence is not to hang out with certain people. Part of our protective fence is to watch our eyes. All of these things are obvious. But part of our fence is the Torah atzma. Is the Torah itself is our fence. What Torah? Knowledge of what happens if we sin. That is the fence itself. Because if you know what happens, as the Hasidim, as the Baal Shem Tov, and all of his Talmidim said, if you know what will happen if you sin, you're not going to want to sin anymore. So it's for your own best interest to know as much as possible about the punishment. Because the more you know about it, the more you're going to connect to it, the more you're going to realize there's no sin in the world that's worth it. It's not worth it to wear tight dress as a woman. It's not worth it to wear provocative clothes, a long wig, make people look at you. It's not worth it to steal. It's not worth it to promise and not deliver. It's not worth it to lie. It's not worth it to do all of these things. It's just not worth it. A person that knows the consequences will easily determine it's not worth it. When they do, B'ezrat Hashem, they little by little become a tzaddik or a tzaddikah, and they get the Keter Torah. B'ezrat Hashem, this should be it for tonight. I think we took long enough, but this by itself, this fence by itself, I believe should help a lot of people if we just simply listen to our sages, listen to Hashem Yitbarach, and actually put a fence around ourselves to protect ourselves from ourselves. And B'ezrat Hashem, no one will end up going to Gehenom. And the first part of the Mishnah that says that Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek le'olam haba will actually come true. That all of Israel actually goes to Olam Haba will come true. And not the rest of the Mishnah that says the details of who doesn't. That all of Am Yisrael listens to this shiur, listens to other shiurim, and doesn't fall. Doesn't listen to the Erev Rav that tells them to fall or tells them not to ignore, but actually listen to Torah Emet, does tshuva, and Be'ezrat Hashem gets to Olam Haba, and Be'ezrat Hashem gets to closer and closer to Hashem Yitbarach. Any questions? Beseder Rabotai, I think you're all very, very tired, and I think we'll end it tonight. We have a shiur on Sunday night, continuation questions and answers. If you can actually have questions, it will be good. If you don't have questions, Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll ask the questions. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen.